And welcome into the Wednesday edition of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Got a loaded show for you here today. A lot to get to with the Nashville Predators. Dane Brugler from The Athletic dropping by at 8 o'clock as well, looking ahead to the NFL Draft. That is a big one. We're looking forward to having him on the show here at 8 o'clock. Our weekly visit with Matt Duchene, Predators centerman, coming up at 8:45. Adam Vingan from The Athletic drops by at 9:30, and he has got a bone to pick with Joe Rexrode. So I'm looking forward to that one coming up as well.
Oh, goody.
Speaking of Joe Rexrode, how in the world are you?
Vibing.
Yeah, buddy. Everyone's vibing today.
Already got Porth laughing.
Yeah, Porth, you vibing okay in there?
We're all vibing. Who is not vibing?
Who's not vibing? Everyone's vibing right now. You know who's continuing to vibe? The Nashville Predators, vibing in a big way yesterday. 7-2 against the reigning Stanley Cup champion, Tampa Bay Lightning. So the game after the trade deadline, we talked all day long yesterday about whether or not it's the right move to keep this group together. And then they come out and just steamroll the Lightning last night, 7-2. They jump out to a 3-0 lead in the first period and never look back. Joe Rexrode, your response to a 7-2 win last night for the Nashville Predators.
I mean, look, the Lightning. Let me see if I can throw some cold water on it. The Lightning were missing Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky's not in goal, but I don't care. It was incredibly impressive. They're just on a roll, man. I mean, they seem to be. And now it's like one of those old cliches, you know, you create your own luck. You know, it's like things start breaking for you, too, when you work like that. So it was kind of like a carryover from Saturday, and they got rewarded for playing the way that they've been playing. And it's just a big deal to beat that team like that. And I think it's a big deal the day after the trading deadline. I mean,
yeah.
You wondered what you would see on the ice the next day. That's a common theme in the NHL, and saw a team that looked pretty energetic.
I was incredibly impressed by what I saw yesterday. It's not like, you know, the Predators came out there and they just played the whole game in the offensive zone or something like that. Like, I think it was at the end of the second period. They had 9 shots on goal in the whole game, and then they put together a flurry towards the end and ended up with 12 after 2 or something like that. So it's not like either team was really like trading chances. It was a playoff-style hockey game where there wasn't a whole lot of room out there. We know how stingy Tampa Bay is, even without Vasilevsky. I mean, look at their defense score. They're really hard to move against and hard to score against. But the Predators in the first period, I mean, you come out, you got all these odd man rushes. They played really well. I mean, they were capitalizing on those opportunities. Sissons gets a goal. Arvidsson with 2 last night. Yossi with a goal. I mean, they just looked in sync, and that's the thing that stands out to me. I mean, you're now 13-3 in your last 16 games, and there's not really been any visible signs of dropping off or of this thing like coming apart at the seams, which is good. I mean, Saros was good once again last night. Again, a situation where he didn't really have to be spectacular, so that was a credit to the Predators and the way they played defensively. But all in all, like, and I know the conversation out of Tampa after the game was more about, man, that was not a good game by us, and McElhinney's in net, and they gave the Predators too much in terms of odd man rushes. But anytime you beat the defending Cup champs 7-2, to me that says something, and that's a big time confidence boost, I think, heading into a back-to-back set this week against Carolina. That's a huge win last night.
Yeah, and early on they had a few odd man rushes, you know, and then of course Arvidsson breaks loose later with that ridiculous Yossi pass. But that's another part about this is Arvidsson. I mean,
yeah,
he's looking kind of quick out there, and he's finishing, and so imagine him now being that guy the rest of the way, and at some point getting some of these other players back and what it would look like.
Ryan Porth, your reaction to a 7-2 win last night for the Nashville Predators against the Tampa Bay Lightning?
That was awfully impressive. Awfully impressive, especially the way they started. I mean, they kicked the Lightning in the teeth, and the Lightning didn't really have a response. In the second period, it looked like they might get back into it, but the Predators just flat out wanted that game more than the Lightning did. I don't know if the Lightning were kind of waving the white flag on that one because in a normal game, you feel like they would have pulled McElhaney and put in the backup goalie, but Vasilevsky was nowhere to be found on the bench. So it kind of felt like that was McElhaney's game. They're going to give Vasilevsky some rest. I will say, though, I thought that was very important for UC Saros to play the way he did against that team because UC Saros has really struggled against Tampa Bay this season. So from a confidence standpoint, if you are going to play Tampa in the playoffs, UC Saros' last impression of facing that team was last night where he once again played very well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a really important game for him. And I think it was pretty clear. Like Tampa Bay, at some point, like you've got to give Vasilevsky a rest. And they had been running him in the ground. So I'm not surprised that they left McElhaney in there. And John Cooper, a Lightning head coach, said this after the game. He's like, with some of the chances they gave up tonight, I don't care if you had Dominic Hasek or Patty Roy, or Patty Roy, as you like to say. Patty Roy. Marty Brodeur. Doesn't matter who was in goal. Nobody's stopping those pucks. And, I mean, just some pretty goals last night for the Predators. Arvidsson gets the breakaway, the 2-on-1 with him and Johansson. Perfect. I mean, it was beautiful. A great pass by Johansson on that play. They look like a team right now that is totally in sync, and that's a good sign moving forward here.
Well, they won a big game, and Saros was about 900, right?
Yeah,
faced about 20 shots, gave up a couple. If that's is that my math? Is my math right? I think that's right.
You're right.
So you didn't have to have some epic stand on your head performance. And also, one of my big takeaways is that Tanner Jeannot needs to be in the lineup the rest of the way. What else do you want to see from this guy?
First NHL goal for Tanner Jeannot last night.
Come on.
Another game.
How do you take him out?
Him and Trennan hitting everything that moves. I know Grimaldi scored last night too, and somebody immediately tweeted me, "How could you have Grimaldi out of the lineup?" It's like, look, it's going to be hard no matter who it is.
You can only have 12 forwards in there.
I can't keep everybody in.
Unless you want to go 13 forwards and 5 defensemen.
That'd be something.
That would be something.
Is there any way that they could go Jeannot, Trennan, Olivier, just absolutely throw out? It's like Colton move him somewhere and just have 3.
I don't know.
Complete bowling balls on one line.
Just the Hanson brothers line out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Clotheslining people. Think about how amazing that could be.
You know what's amazing is that earlier this season, I think all of us wanted to rip our eyeballs out watching this team try to score goals. And now 3 times in the last 11 games, they've scored 7 or more goals.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
And again, it's like, and it's not necessarily because they're getting all these chances. They're certainly, they're playing a defensive style. They're in these tight checking games, but out of the neutral zone, here they come. It's kind of amazing. It's like classic, like a coach looks at this stuff and says, see, if you work hard and do the things responsibly, you'll get chances. You don't have to cheat, you don't have to leak out and try to score that way. It's good coaching film stuff.
That's what happened in 2017 during the playoff run, though.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Don't start bringing up 2017.
Well, here he goes. Here he goes. Took 8 minutes. Here we go. Bring it on, baby.
What was the word?
Vibin'.
Yeah, well, what was the the key word back then? Vibin' is vibin'. Whatever happens here now, that's the word.
Yeah.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you and Slow Joe.
Yeah.
What's the what was the word of 17?
Glorious. That song. That was the debut of it, right?
That
didn't happen until the playoffs, right?
Well, deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they first played that in like the second or third round.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yes.
I think he's right.
Yeah.
Are you guys sure about that?
I'm not 100% sure, but I would say 91%. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now you've ruined the whole 2017 memory for me.
Why?
I hate that song.
Oh, come on.
Come on, that
You
song's
didn't think
awful.
it started there?
I thought it was all along.
Do you
since
like
I've been
any
here.
song?
I love lots of songs.
All I Do Is Win?
Oh God. Seriously, we need to switch some things up here. I know at this point you're not going to at this
we're
point.
about to.
When a team's playing like this, no one changes their socks. That's fine. Let it roll. But at some point, both of those songs are scratch your eyeballs out songs.
Johnny on Twitter says, it may be my Monday of my work cycle today, but I certainly don't feel that way waking up 5 minutes ago here on the West Coast after that victory last night. Johnny is vibing today. The Predators fans, they are feeling it. There was some, even from some people that I kind of keep tabs in my mind. of who kind of feels what on Twitter, because you get your regulars on Twitter that tweet you about every game and you interact with people on there. And even some people who have been extremely, extremely down on this team this year, and even leading up to the trade deadline, have been down and not really believing in this group. Some of those people started to change the tune a little bit last night after that 7-2 win against Tampa Bay. It's one thing to score 7 on Detroit. It's another thing to score 7 on Tampa Bay.
So if we did the signing day poll now, would it be like 85-15 after that one win?
Maybe so.
Yeah. No, you've got to be pretty tough to win over if you're not won over at least in being excited about this team and how it's playing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
And that's the thing. Like, you could still disagree with the moves made at the deadline and think they should have sold and think maybe you should have recouped some assets. And also, you can be excited about what you're watching. You can be excited about what's happening right in front of you. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think more people are starting to open themselves up to that idea.
Yeah, I mean, let's see where it goes, See where it goes.
It was just incredible. Like, I found myself in the second period last night when they got that response goal, because when Tampa made it 3-1, I was like, okay. I mean, that was quick. They're coming back, and this is Tampa Bay.
And then they were pushing.
Yeah, and they were pushing, and Saros had to make a couple big stops in tight. When you got that response goal by Grimaldi to go up 4-1, that's when I was like, okay, like that to me is like the type of goal this team may not have scored earlier this year, in terms of you got all the momentum in the world going against you. You got to find a way to weather that storm and hang through it. I thought they did. They didn't get a ton of shots in the second period, but Arvidsson's entry on that play was unbelievable. Like, he just hung with it. He gets to the front of the net. Johansson's at the front of the net. And Grimaldi beats McElhenney to the puck by like a nanosecond, and it's in the back of the net. I thought that goal really shut the door on Tampa Bay's comeback attempt.
Yeah, that was massive. And to John Cooper's point, I mean, there were a few, and again, you get a 2-on-1 or whatever. I mean, I don't care who's in goal. There are a few shots, including, I believe, the first goal. I'm like Vasilevsky's not stopping that shot.
No.
I mean, you talk about primo chances within not a ton of them, and then finishing. That's what they did. So now so they're done with Tampa Bay. They're done with Detroit, and now they're on to like the team that they have not looked good about. Again, I would argue that they maybe have looked as consistently overmatched by Carolina as any team this year.
I would agree.
Here we go again. Let's see how different they are.
And then some good news as well for the Predators last night around the league. Dallas loses in overtime to Florida. So not a regulation loss. Dallas still gets a point out of it. But right now, you are 7 points clear of the Stars at the moment. And they still got 3 games in hand. So that's a big point lost last night for the Dallas Stars, and another point gained on them by the Nashville Predators. So we are off and running here on the show. A big win for the Predators last night against Tampa Bay. Are the doubters starting to change their mind about this team? We'll discuss that coming up next. Take your thoughts as well on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 1025, The Game.
Feeds now Sissons coming on from the left circle, and Colton Sissons puts it in the net. Here comes Yossi in right side. Yossi the shot, and he scores! Roman Yossi picks up the loose puck just outside the blue line. And the Predators have themselves a 2-0 lead. Up the right board, now some room. Ryan Johansson, 2-on-1. Johansson across, and the shot of the score. Victor Arvidsson makes it 3-zip. Predators 3 in the first, 1 in the second. And 3 in the third to win this game 7-2.
Preds vibing their way to a 7-2 win last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They looked very, very impressive against the reigning Stanley Cup champions. And Porth, as you mentioned, that is the third time in the last 11 games that the Predators have scored 7 goals. And there is something really impressive about that streak here, especially when it comes to this show and this competition here. Tyler from Berry Hill on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, can we all just take a minute to admire the fact that 7 goals were scored and Robby still misses in Pred's pick to click? It's truly impressive. He's definitely not vibing.
Oh.
Well, first off, I'm not saying that you're wrong, Tyler, but it's not just me that's missing in Pred's pick to click when they score 7 goals. As I said, this is the third time in the last 11 games they've scored 7. Not a single one of us has gotten anything right in any of those games when they've scored 7 goals. And the listener yesterday, was it Don yesterday? I believe so.
Sounds right.
He got Mikhail Granlund.
No, Michael Granlund.
Yes, excuse me.
I'm going with Michael from now on after listening to David Poyle this week. Go
Michael Granlund to score the 7th goal of the game.
Mikey Granlund.
Old Mike scored a goal last night.
Mike Grodland.
Yes. Yeah, we get Bradford in here and do a little combination of it.
I still can't pronounce it like you
I'm
can.
not even going to try. No thanks.
Oh, Bradford?
Yeah.
It's like Mikhail Granlund.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Mike
No,
Granlund.
I love Bradford's. Bradford and Poyle are like opposite ends of the spectrum. Poyle makes every name like how he wants it to be, like Mikey Grandland, and Bradford tries to
looking at the pronunciation guide and finish.
He calls grandparents up to like get the correct pronunciation.
Goes to Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
But the point is,
Yes. Make your point.
Granlund's goal last night was the first time in these games that the Predators have combined for 21 goals that any of us have gotten one right. So it's not just me, Tyler. I'm not the only one that's really bad at this.
I mean, it's cool to make fun of him, Tyler, but we deserve some of that smoke too. That's pretty amazing. 21 goals.
None of us.
None of us with a single one right.
Ugh.
Who'd you have last night?
He
Yeah, you had Johansson and
he had 2 assists, played like the best game he's played all year.
Yeah,
Nothing.
He was very good.
I had Luke Cunnin, who was on the doorstep multiple times and could not finish.
Yes.
I got a tweet, and my guy was close a couple times.
He was.
You
You going to change it up on Thursday?
I don't know. Do I abandon Joe Davion Rexrode? I don't know. But someone tweeted at me last night. Now I want to give proper credit here. This is what I hate when I start talking about something about Twitter and I'm not ready to deliver. Here we go. Aaron at Sportsgirl Tennessee said, I just said Rex Croak almost scored, and my husband laughed from the other room. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Sorry, Yarny. But people are calling you Rex Croak. Between Rex Croak and then you and Slow Joe with your vibin' merchandise boom, there's a lot of interplay here between the show and the team.
There is. And, hey, I mean, last night, vibing was everywhere. Johansson said it on the bench again yesterday, coming out for warm-up. Apparently there was a vibe meter at the game last night on the Jumbotron, getting people hyped up. And then now, I looked on Twitter last night, Ryan Johansson's selling shirts. He's selling shirts from his company. Says, we're vibing Nashville. Not we're vibing Robby. We're vibing Nashville. I like it.
Nashville has replaced you.
Yes, that's fine.
What was your exact question?
I don't know.
Do you remember the exact question, Porth?
I did use the word vibe.
Use the word vibe.
Yeah.
You were like, what is this vibe?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. We're vibing, Robby.
Yeah, you got to get the pause in there, too.
I'm going to sell T-shirts, Robby. We're vibing. You need to get a cut.
We're vibing, Robby.
You need a cut of this.
It's taken...
I'm going to get lawyers involved in this if I have to.
You should. It's taken Preds Nation by storm, and as they continue this march here to the playoffs, this will be the mantra.
all right, here was the question that Robby asked that now has resulted in just some phenomenon with vibing.
Including the Preds. Now it's their Twitter account.
Yes.
It just says we're vibing, right?
Yes, it does.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Ryan, obviously the results on the ice speak for themselves, but just from your vantage point, how much different is the vibe with this group now than it was, 3.5, 4 weeks ago?
We're vibing, Robby.
First off, I mean, what a question.
Great question.
My goodness.
Great question, and I appreciate when young people can reach back and listen like Jeff or sound like Jeff Spicoli
Yeah.
at a press conference. That's outstanding. You do you know you get my reference?
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
Do you?
No.
Look at Porth. He has no idea.
Does Porth know your shirt? The Jinko olive oil shirt.
Janko olive oil importing.
You have worn that before,
I know.
and I did not know it last time, and I forget now.
Yeah, it's. Have you ever heard of the movie The Godfather? You should check that out sometime.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, Spicoli, it's like no shirt, no shoes, no dice. Learning about Cuba, having some food. We're vibing, Robby.
That's right. Vibing all the way to the cup. Now, is this
We're
going to
vibing,
be
Robby.
is this going to be like the mantra now moving forward? I mean, St. Louis, when they won the cup, they had the Gloria song or whatever they were doing.
Wait,
Is
they
this-
did the Glorious song too?
No, the Glorious was the Predators. Gloria.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
right, Laura.
How could
Play
you forget?
Gloria.
Oh my
How could you
gosh.
forget Brett Hull's
Yeah.
amazing speech when they won the cup to Gloria?
Speaking of Spicoli,
Yeah.
he could have hung with Spicoli and Brett Hall could have a few bong rips.
it just feels like this is going to be it. Like this show, along with myself and Ryan Johansson, we've created a cultural phenomenon here with the Predators. They're vibing, and you can't stop this vibe.
Well, they always have a playoff slogan, like "Stand with
Yeah.
us." Maybe they're going to change it to "We're vibing."
I hope so.
So this reminds me of like the Detroit Red Wings, which of course now it's been so many years because when's the last time they were in the playoffs? But every year they had to have like red in like, you know what I mean? Like turn on your red light. I mean, it's like some of the years it was like, how did you even come up with that? Like seriously, like Red Rover, come on over.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, those playoff. It's got to be that, right?
Or "Vibe with us"
Vibe with us.
Vibe with us.
instead of "Stand with us."
Jim Diamond had an interesting response to you on the
Yeah.
whole vibing thing. We probably shouldn't.
Probably shouldn't go there.
You shouldn't go there on the show.
Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, you guys are going to run the vibing gimmick into the ground and make it the new pedal taverns on ice.
Oh my gosh. This is verbal
Hey.
pedal taverning.
I'm not doing this. The Predators are.
Exactly.
They've embraced it with open arms. Johansson's selling T-shirts. You don't see me selling T-shirts.
Yeah, you're wearing
Don't get mad
a
at me.
Wisconsin Badger sweatshirt.
Yeah, don't
right
get mad
now.
at me.
Janko olive oil over here. I don't have a vibing shirt. I might buy one.
Yeah.
I'd buy one from Ryan Johansson's company if it said "We're vibing Robby," but I'm not buying one that says "We're vibing Nashville."
We'll keep you updated on how that goes. The early returns from the replies on Twitter last night seem to be that it's a popular T-shirt item. So we'll see how that goes.
Man, like that's a harsh one. Who texted that?
There's no name.
No name, but
The Pedal Tavern on Ice.
the
That's
pedal
a-
tavern.
Yeah.
Already bring it to pedal tavern levels.
Vingan's
that
already
bad.
annoyed with it, which I'm just going to love at 9:30 today here on the show. It's going to be great.
Between that and ripping on wrestling, we can really get it. We
yeah.
can get after Vingan today.
We may not get anything productive out of it.
When Vingan tweeted that out last night about hating the vibin', I immediately thought of the scene in Remember the Titans where Denzel Washington is telling Petey, "You will have zero fun, sir."
Yes. Yes.
A movie reference.
Of course he did.
That's good.
Yeah, one of the 5 movies I've seen.
Poor scene, Remember the Titans approximately 304 times.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, it is. Vingan, not a fan of fun last night. We'll get all over him coming up today at 9:30 here on the show. Speaking of the Nashville Predators, we got a lot of your texts to get to on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. What'd you think of that game last night for the Predators against Tampa Bay? Does it change the way that you feel about maybe a potential playoff series between the two? We'll discuss that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Hi, Roman. We talked this morning about the chance to face Tampa Bay one last time and just to test yourself against a club like that here tonight. What do you think of this one overall, and especially the way that your group kept going there in the third period to continue to pile it on?
Yeah, it was obviously really good. I mean, our first was really good. We started really well, got a couple of goals. Obviously, that helps, and I thought they made a push in the second. We're a better team for most of the second, but Chus was great in that. He made a lot of huge saves, and I liked our response in the third. And I mean, yeah, it's a big win for us against a really good team.
I'm getting them good vibes. I'm living this good life. I'm breathing on God.
We got some good vibes here on the program. Ryan Forth coming back in with a little country music, much to the delight of Joe Rexrode here on the show.
And who created this brilliant song?
Chris Jansen.
Chris Jansen. All right. Are you going to play any Beach Boys at any point? I mean, that's a
No.
good vibration. That's the original Good Vibrations.
Yeah. Hey,
I'll find some others for you.
Charlene on Twitter says, "We're vibing is the thing. Just so happens I'm a fan of fun, and I love it." So to all the haters out there, I'm with Charlene. You got to just enjoy the ride right now with We're Vibing.
Embrace the vibe.
Embrace the vibe.
Exactly. Get on the virtual pedal tavern and, pretend that you're actually making it move with your feet.
Fred Flintstone style. Kristen on a text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com says, "I'm laughing so hard. Love the vibing. Not even close to the pedal taverns." That was a cheap shot. A little low blow.
That was
for the
coming
pedal
hard.
taverns.
Yeah.
It was.
Just wait for 2 weeks from now when it's still like something that's said every day. Like the fans might start rooting for them to lose, so they stop talking about it. That's the problem with these slogans sometimes.
Look, if that's the price you've got to pay to continue winning, that's just what you got to do. That's a sacrifice you've got to make at this point.
All right, real quick on the tweet line, read Barry V. This is I think this is a good point. They've been on a great run. This is talking about the Preds. Doubts remain. Can Juice keep up that kind of save percentage? They beat Tampa Bay soundly. Was it just a bad game for them? How they played versus Tampa Bay may be an indicator, but how they do versus Carolina will go a long way in flipping doubters, of which I am one, to believers. And
okay.
I think that's I mean, I know some people are going to be like, okay, keep moving the goalpost type thing, but I'm very interested to see how they look against Carolina because I think they've looked as out. We know Tampa Bay is the best team, probably going to win this thing, right? But they're a little up and down. You over a stretch of games, you're going to have one here or there. Detroit will beat them, right? But I think the Preds have looked as consistently outclassed by Carolina as against any team this year. So
I agree.
I think these two games will be a real good test of how different they are now.
I agree, and I think you're 0-3-1 against Carolina so far this year. So you've got 4 cracks at them left here on the schedule. I mean, those are important games that they've got coming up. Like, as big as last night was, and I think it was huge last night, like, you've got to show, I think, to yourself that you can compete against Carolina. Because we keep talking about a first-round matchup with Tampa Bay. It could happen. It's just as likely the first-round matchup is with Carolina as well. So these are big games coming up. I thought it was a statement made by the Predators last night against Tampa Bay. Can you keep that going now on the road on a Carolina team that I think's different? They match up a little bit differently. There's a lot of speed with that group. They're really good defensively. Their goaltending doesn't scare you, but they have the puck so much. The goaltending's not really that big of a concern for them because they control the play a lot. So this is going to be a huge one coming up for the Predators, and I was impressed with the response they had last night. Ty on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, "I think they played nearly the same game as they did on Saturday, except this time the puck went in the net."
No, I said that earlier. I was like, honestly, I thought it was a continuation of Saturday with some better luck, with a different goaltender, and with more mistakes from Tampa Bay too. I mean, that's especially early in that game. How many odd man rushes did the Preds have? They had like 4 or 5 in a short period.
Yeah.
Well, they scored 3 goals on 7 shots in the first period.
Yeah. That's a good percentage.
You're going to win most games with that percentage.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mike from Greenbrier, out in my neck of the woods out there, with over 20 points left available, is it not a realistic shot to actually move up in the standings if you're the Predators? I would say that's unlikely.
You got to hope Florida.
Florida would have to tank. you've got. I mean, I say that they're all at 58 points, so one of the three would have to tank.
You just feel like they'd be the most likely. Right?
Exactly. Now you've got, like you said, there's not that much time left. You do have games against Florida still left on the schedule, so if you beat them in regulation a couple of times and you continue this run that you're on, maybe. But I would say it's not a very high percentage.
Well, and another thing about that is, okay, so you get to the 3, and you're going to play either Carolina or Tampa Bay. And if you're the 4, you're going to play either Carolina or Tampa Bay. So it doesn't really matter. You get in.
Unless Florida keeps going.
You've done good work. What's that?
I mean, Florida could win the division too. All three of them.
Except that if you beat, the only way to get there is to beat them, like you said, in regulation. Yeah. So then how are they going to win the division?
I know. I'm just saying, like, if they remain in the 4th spot, maybe it's Florida in the first round.
Oh, I got you.
And if I'm the Predators, I feel a lot better about that matchup than I do Tampa Bay and Carolina right now.
So I had a thought last night during the Tampa Bay game.
Okay.
Or the Preds game, however you want to look at it. And thinking about a potential first-round matchup between the Preds and the Bolts. Everybody around the league would bring up the fact that the Lightning won 6 of 8 in the season series.
Sure.
However, the first 4 games, this team was completely dysfunctional. It was different. When you look at the last 4 games of the season series, they split the 4 games. They dominated in the 2 wins that they had. I mean, does that, when you split it up like that, does that give you a little bit more confidence that potentially an upset could happen?
This is a totally different team, right? I mean, it's almost like you just take the first part of the season and lop it off.
Flush it down the toilet.
You know? So, yeah.
But the 2 games in Tampa Bay last month are really when this whole thing turned around.
Yes. Now, I think you also have to keep in mind, if you're the Predators, that Steven Stamkos is going to be playing in the playoffs.
Probably
and Nikita
Kucherov.
Kucherov is going to be playing in the playoffs. And that's a gigantic deal. Like, those are 2 huge difference makers. So, yes, like I don't think you approach the series, even if those guys are healthy, if you're the Predators or a Predators fan, and just say, oh, we have absolutely no chance. Like, I don't think that's the case at all. But you're still going to be a pretty heavy underdog.
Sure.
Even with the way you've played as of late.
Right. But internally, you got to feel better about how you compete with them. And you're absolutely right about those guys. And the Preds would hope to have Forsberg and Tolvanen and some of these other guys and Duchesne, they're missing, and hope that they come in and don't miss a beat, which is the next really interesting thing to see whenever they do come back.
I agree, but I will say, like, the more and more these games go by, the harder I think these decisions are going to be for John Hines in terms of the lineup. Like, I mean, you're with some guys, like, you're not keeping Forsberg out. You're not keeping Tolvanen out. You're not keeping Duchesne out, probably. But
so you got a probably on that.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if he comes back in and he's not playing the way you need him to play, I wouldn't hesitate to take him out.
Yeah. So, there's no probably on re-entering the lineup.
No.
It's just a matter of, sure. I mean, there's a standard that's been pretty well established here on how you got to play. So, but those 3 guys, the minute they're healthy, are in the lineup, right? We agree on that.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. And that should be max buy-in, and all of a sudden your skill level's better. You're way better on the power play. It should be just an increase, but that's not how it always works in sports.
Let's go back to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texter that says, do you think Poyle not trading anybody has maybe ignited something within the team, speaking purely from the excitement of last night?
Well, I mean, it's not like last night was a complete 180 on anything. They've been ignited. But they seem to be happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is fair to say, just based on some of the comments that I've seen, and look, that the players were going to say this, but
yes,
they appreciate the fact that it appears David Poyle believes in them. I think that's a big deal. I think they were hoping that he was going to leave this thing together, and he did. So how much of a tangible effect is that going to have on the ice? I don't think much of one, but I do think, there is a belief level with this team that is way different right now. And the trade deadline, I think, was more of an affirmation of that from management than it was anything else.
Yeah. Now, let's say someone had been traded. Like, I don't think the Preds would have come out last night and moped around the ice and lost 6-3, you know? So, but certainly, the players, they express appreciation afterward and not surprised by that at all. I mean, that matters to them.
We'll continue the discussion on the Predators when we come back, looking ahead to some decisions that David Poile is going to have to make when it comes to locking down some key pieces moving forward. We'll do that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. Got some good vibrations here on the show. Well done, Ryan Porth.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's a jam.
It is.
Who doesn't like the Beach Boys?
Who doesn't like Chris Jansen?
I've never heard of him, but sounds great.
At some point, I'm going to have to play Buy Me a Boat for you, and you're just going to be rocking out.
Please do.
Buy me a boat?
Yeah.
Is there something that, like, something about a beer?
Others, yeah.
A hound dog, something?
I don't think there's a hound dog in that song.
Okay, all right. That's cool.
Pure country.
But the Beach Boys, I mean, I think we can all agree, right?
Pretty good.
Except for the song Kokomo. That song's awful. God.
You're a hater of Kokomo? Really?
Do you know this song?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, man. But, it was the Beach Boys trying to make a hit in the 80s. I mean,
It worked. Still
it did
played
work,
today.
Unfortunately. Like around that time, the song Kokomo and also Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bobby McFerrin were both heavy rotation pop radio songs.
Well, didn't it make you feel like you're at the beach?
Both of them, it made me feel like I wanted to put permanent earplugs in.
You're giving me so much content for the Rex
Yeah,
Rant.
this is going to be great.
You're right. I should
And just
shut
keep
up.
on digging. There we go.
Yeah, I should shut up. I've got Blink 182, Creed, and now I've got those two songs.
By the way, had a suggestion sometimes, depending on how mad you get on the Rex Rant, to call it Rex Rage. So people just coming up with good ideas. We like it.
I was thinking about, I told you I could also do a Rex Rank,
Yeah, you could.
But maybe here and there I could throw in a Rex Rap. What do you think?
I would love to hear it.
Holy smokes, that would be amazing.
Anytime you want to throw in a Rex Rap, maybe about the Detroit Lions, we could do that for sure.
Ooh. A mighty team that will not yield.
Give me more of that.
That, but with some bars. Yeah. Okay.
Give me more of that.
I'll work on that.
Amber on Twitter says, so far everyone has come off injury even better than they were, so you got to believe. So happy to have been there last night. It was incredible. That is true. I mean, people coming back from injury, they're playing really well. They're playing like they've got their hair on fire right now, and I think that's contagious throughout the lineup. Can that continue as hopefully at some point they get more bodies back? That's going to be the question for the Predators moving forward. And another question for the Predators moving forward, who's going to be a part of the future here in Nashville? We've talked about Mikael Granlund. They've kept him. Yeah, the trade deadline is come and gone, and Poyle made it clear a couple of days ago at his press conference that there's at least some interest there in bringing him back beyond this year with his contract and being part of the future. Ekholm as well. Poyle was very just direct in the way he feels about Matthias Ekholm, not losing him to expansion. The next conversation he has with Ekholm is going to be about his future here with the Predators. You've also got Philip Forsberg as well that is eligible to receive a contract extension this offseason. So some major decisions coming up for David Poyle and the Nashville Predators in the offseason, not to mention the expansion draft on the table as well. And David Poyle joined Darren Donick-Chase yesterday for his weekly visit. Joins Darren Donick-Chase every Tuesday at 11:15 and talked about some of these decisions that he's got coming up with these players that I've just mentioned. Here's what David Poyle had to say.
Forsberg is specifically he's in exactly the same spot as Eki is, with a year to go on his contract. He's 4 or 5 years younger than Eki. I would say is our best forward. Obviously, he's our best goal scorer right now. I mean, my first thoughts would be almost the same thing as with Eki, is that we should sit down and see what he thinks about his future here and see if there's an opportunity to extend him. I mean, he'd be a very tough player to replace. And again, I think he's just coming into his prime. These are his best years, and I still see the day when Philip is not just going to score 30 goals; he's going to score 40 goals. So, I would certainly like to have Phil be part of this future with the Predators.
So David Poyle talking about Philip Forsberg there in that clip. I don't think that's a huge surprise that the Predators would like Philip Forsberg to sign an extension and to be a part of things as they move forward here. The question I have for you, Joe Rexrode, is as you look at Granlund, who they've expressed interest in, Ekholm, who they've expressed interest in, and Forsberg as well, are they going to be able to pull this off? Like, can you find a way, if you're David Poyle, to keep all three of those guys as they move forward here?
Well, if the guest we have later on the show is not here, or Ryan Johansson, one of those two, I don't think there's any way otherwise, is there? I haven't crunched all the numbers, but I mean, first of all, to me, Ekholm, now that Ekholm is not on the block or the imaginary block or whatever it was, I mean, clearly David Poyle, and he made clear in that interview too. He had plenty of talks about Ekholm.
Yeah, there was a lot of phone calls happening.
I mean, he's not going to divulge the details, but now that that's over, I mean, Ekholm and Forsberg to me are no-brainers that you're going to try to extend. And I think, based on what's going on this year especially, and it's just based on Granlund with John Hines, I think that's a big priority. But I don't see how it's possible if you are still paying two centers $8 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. And look, maybe it requires moving somebody else out that we're not thinking about. Maybe it's a Ryan Ellis or somebody like that. But I would agree. I think the numbers are going to be tough. Like next year, yeah, you can make it work. Like you could bring Granlund back next year. You've got room heading into next year. And I guess the cap hit, theoretically, for an extended Ekholm or an extended Forsberg would not be to the following season.
But
so
then that's when
you've got to start to do some crunching with the numbers, and you've got more players coming in. At some point, Eeli Tolvanen's going to need a deal along the line as well. I mean, Philip Tomasino at some point coming up as well. So there's a lot you got to think about if you're David Poile and the Nashville Predators. Dante Fabro, like what's his next deal going to look like? I mean, there's a lot to consider here. Next year specifically, I don't think it's a big deal. Like I think they've got enough room where they could do it and bring him in, and maybe you operate if you're David Poile and you just say, all right, I'm signing Granlund to a contract. It's going to be multi-year. I'm signing Forsberg and Ekholm to a contract too, and I'll figure all their other stuff out after that. And you can make some moves to make it work. I mean, that's
like buying someone out at some point. You don't want to do that anymore.
You can trade. I mean, you can trade.
You can try to trade.
You can try to trade, but there are people that you would be able to trade a Ryan Ellis if you wanted to.
Yeah, but see, I think that Ellis is pretty close to the untouchable list in Poile's eyes.
They love
too.
Ellis, yeah.
So I mean, I think you go back to the centers, and then my question is, take that whole picture into account, understanding that right now we're in the midst of this crazy hot run, and they're doing really great things on the ice, and it looks really good. But is that team good enough? Like, is that a contending team? Because that's what you're trying to get to.
Sure.
Because, I mean, look, a month ago, 2 months ago, I know I thought there's got to be some kind of big move and then someone else coming in, too, to just shake it up and change the entire makeup of the team. I mean, it looks less like that, but is it good enough with these pieces re-signed? I think a lot of that will be some of these young guys and how they progress. I don't know, though. I don't know the answer.
I think you've got to leave room for some of the young guys too, like not just financially, but for some upward mobility in the lineup. Like one thing we've learned about this group this year, you've got some young players that you feel really good about. Like I think even though Rem Pitlick is not really broken through yet in terms of being this dynamic offensive player. He did have 2 assists last night.
He looks pretty good.
Looks pretty good. Like I think he's going to be a part of the future here. Like Philip Tomasino is not far away. Like I don't think it's a stretch to say that Philip Tomasino is going to be part of this group next year at some point. I mean, he's playing really well at the American Hockey League level. Like there's got to be, as you plan out forward here, a spot for him somewhere to be. Like you don't want Philip Tomasino playing 8 minutes a night on your fourth line. Like it doesn't do him any good. It doesn't do your team any good. So you got to keep that in mind as well. I think that's one thing that some Predators fans have been critical of this year is, all right, well, why have y'all waited so long with some of these younger players who have clearly come in and displayed that they're ready? Like, why is it taking Alex Carrier so long to get here? Why is it taking a guy like Matthew Olivier or Yakov Trenin so long to find consistent playing time here? I mean, I think that's a fair question, and I think that's something, if you're the Predators, you've got to consider moving forward of a lot of your young guys are ready, and you've got to create room for them to come in and help you.
I want to know why Tanner Jeannot has not played in every game this season.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the answers to that.
Hey,
you better not touch 84 in that lineup. So let's talk, long-term top 6 then. Okay, let's say you re-sign Granlund, Forsberg, Tolvanen, Tomasino.
You still have Arvidsson, you still have Johansson, you still have Duchesne.
And then Arvidsson, Johansson, Duchesne.
Yeah.
And Arvidsson, there's another guy who, I mean, I feel differently about him now than I did a month ago. And I know, Arvidsson's done a lot, but, I mean, the injuries, last year in particular, he was limited out there. I think probably because of injuries, but, like, is you rolling with him long term? He's got a good contract.
Yep.
He looks great last night, but that's another one of those. You're gonna have to do some choice. You're gonna have to do some either or with this, and of course, obviously, it comes back to the centers.
Yep, that's a big part of it, and I've said it many times here on the show. Like I think there's this thought out there that just automatically one of those two are going to be on Seattle next year. And I don't think it's going to be that simple. Like, I just don't. Maybe it happens. Like, maybe Seattle just absolutely needs to take one of those two to get to the expansion floor and the cap floor. But I don't see you being able to do that if you're the Predators without probably parting ways with a piece that you don't want to part ways with.
I was talking to Vingan on the phone yesterday, and he had a good point. You know, Vegas, obviously they hit the jackpot, and a lot of things broke well, but the biggest cap hit they took on was Fleury, about 5.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, it's still you're talking about 8 here.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So, it's not as simple. A lot to figure out now. Like you said, next year you can do more. You can have more because those extensions wouldn't kick in. But is that what you want? Is that the makeup of the team? And that some of that will probably be answered when guys come back this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, this is going to be an important offseason for David Poile. And look, I don't know how far this is going to go. I don't know if they're even going to make the playoffs. I mean, there's still a lot to be determined here in terms of what the decisions look like for David Poile in the future as they head into next season. But when you've got 3 guys like that who you've expressed interest in, Granlund, Ekholm, and Forsberg, that you want to make sure are a long-term part of your future, like that's a pretty big offseason for David Poile coming up. So then you factor in the expansion draft as well. This is going to be fun to watch once the offseason gets here. So lots to keep up with David Poile on that front. And if you heard him speak the other day, he's already started to plan ahead for the expansion draft as well. So we know that Matthias Ekholm is not going to be lost in the expansion draft. He made that quite clear.
He did. And he's a big fan of Michael Granlund.
Yes, he is. When we come back, Eddie George was officially introduced yesterday as the new head football coach at TSU. What does this mean for the TSU football program? How much are people here locally going to care now about the TSU football program? We'll discuss that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, live from the wholesaling studios, powered by RumbleOn.com, here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Hour number 2 of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. We've got The Choice Is Yours coming up later this hour at 7:45. Looking forward to that. Dane Brugler from The Athletic will join us at 8 o'clock, looking ahead to the NFL Draft. Matt Duchene at 8:45 for his weekly visit with us, Predator Centerman. And then at 9:30, our man Adam Vingan, who's got a bone to pick with Joe Rexrode. So I'm very much looking forward to that conversation coming up at 9:30.
Sounds like a pre-scripted fake argument to me.
Oh, could be. We'll have to see how that goes.
Coming off the top rope.
You're on one today. Way to go.
With like a fake bottle or something, it's like what they have in the movies.
You're such a hater. I love every second of it. Joe, right after we got off the air yesterday, Tennessee State holding a press conference introducing officially Eddie George as the new head football coach at TSU. I believe the 22nd football coach at TSU. It was interesting because, I mean, you have Eddie George coming in, and I thought heading into the press conference yesterday, like if there's ever a situation that is tailor-made for Eddie George, it's that press conference. Like, he is so good at things like that. I knew that he would kill the press conference, and he absolutely did. And we've got some clips yesterday from Eddie George at the press conference just talking about his investment level in the program, how he got here, how he arrived at this point to decide to be the new head coach at TSU, and what he wants this program to be as they move forward here. Here's what Eddie George had to say yesterday at his press conference.
I'm honored to be named the 22nd head coach of this university, this program, and I truly understand the history when it comes to Tennessee State football. I've been living here for well over 24 years. In fact, when we first got here from Houston, we landed here at Tennessee State, and I was very familiar with the 13 national black championships that they've won here. The Hall of Fame coaches like Henry Dean and Howard Gentry Sr., John A. Merritt, Joe Gillum Sr., great players like Richard Dent, Claude Humphrey, NFL Hall of Famers. I mean, number one in HBCUs in terms of putting players in the NFL. Very aware, extremely aware of the rich history here, and I get it. So taking this job on carries a lot of weight. I have some big shoes to fill, but I feel like I'm the man to get the job done.
So that was Eddie George yesterday at his press conference. And, Joe, it was basically, I thought, 30 minutes of Eddie George basically just knocking this thing out of the park. Like, I thought he was awesome at the press conference. And, look, nobody really cares at the end of the day what the press conference is like. You win the press conference. We've seen people do that and then have no idea what they're doing as a head coach and things not go well. But I will say, as somebody who's not really ever been invested in TSU and it's not really ever cared about what TSU has done on the football field, got me a little fired up yesterday hearing Eddie George at that press conference.
I mean, look, I'm sitting there yesterday because every fall I basically look at the schedule and it's, am I going to Knoxville or am I doing Vanderbilt today, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in my head, like, I got to look at the TSU schedule here. And I mean, seriously, like, so that's just one person doing this job, but I feel like that's probably going to be thought about by a lot of people. And I wonder, just general fans, how much interest there's going to be in watching this. I mean, it's going to be a fascinating story. You know, and as far as I think winning the presser means more at a place like, you know, at TSU and Austin P, even in Middle Tennessee, you know, places that on Saturdays just typically are way overshadowed by, you know, your Power 5 football. So, I mean, that was, I agree with you, that was one of the, it's not surprising, but even the reaction to some of the questions from Eddie George, it was like, man, this guy is going to be so good in the leader and CEO and having a presence aspect of the job. I mean, he's absolutely perfect for it. There's always a question with him is just like, do you want to get into all the things that are entailed in coaching. And, of course, again, we've talked about it. Like, if you've had a successful NFL career, most guys don't want to deal with that stuff, which I totally understand. And it also sounded like he was very much thinking that when they first approached him. Like, huh? Nah, come on, you know? And eventually he thinks about it and talks to people, and Jeff Fisher seemed to have a big hand in that too.
Yeah, he did. And I did think that was interesting yesterday, just how honest he was about that conversation. I mean, they approached him a few weeks ago, he said, and his first thought was, I think he said, no. That was the way that he put it. And, you know, as time went on, as he had more conversations with his family and with people around him, he said he reached out to Mike Vrabel as well and some coaches that he knows around the league. The more he opened himself up to the possibility of it. And now here we are today. Eddie George is the next head football coach at Tennessee State University. Like, I thought it was interesting yesterday that he kind of highlighted, you know, I've been a mentor my whole life. Like, I've dealt with, you know, raising my own kids. My kids have been recruited. I've been recruited. I know how that is. And said, you know, there are going to be times where, you know, he's got to learn some compliance and what goes on with that and, you know, some game day decisions on the field that he asked for patience with. But it seems like Eddie George is fully committed to this. He is fully committed, and I don't know how long. I'm not saying he's going to be the TSU coach for 15 years, but he seems to be fully committed to this right now in a way that I think is going to generate a ton of excitement for TSU. And then the question becomes, all right, excitement is one thing. How does that translate on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine him not doing really well on the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
I think back 5 years to when Will Healy went to Austin Peay. And at that time, he was like 31. It was like, this is like one of the youngest guys coaching football. But he immediately had a presence, and like they were killing. They had the number one class one year. They were beating like even Middle Tennessee for some recruits. There was just a lot of momentum for that, and just the personality of the person in charge meant so much. And I feel like we're about to see something similar to that with Eddie George and TSU. Like, how, especially if this staff is coming together the way it, you know, some of the people who are rumored to be on it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a chance here to have, you got like possibly some like Hall of Famers coaching here. How would you not be attracted to that if you're a kid in their recruiting realm? So I think that's huge. I think Steve Lehman had a really good question at the presser yesterday, you know, to TSU's administration about the question that I don't think there's any way Eddie George takes the job if the answer isn't affirmative, but the resources. I mean, Rod Reed talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, are you going to be able to find a way to fund this program to make it competitive in some ways it hasn't been? And the answers I thought sounded good on that front. As a fundraiser, just like as a recruiter, Eddie George is going to crush.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just – it's a massive deal for TSU football. Like you said, we don't know on game day and all that stuff. We'll find out. And there's some aspects of being a college coach that you have to go through to learn. But if he's all in like he sounded like yesterday, I think it's going to be really interesting and maybe really good. And, like, I'm sorry, but, like, I feel like Eddie George – like, if the Deion Sanders comparison is going to be obvious and frequent, and they're going to play each other next year. Like, I feel like Eddie George is I would hire him way before I'd hire Deion Sanders and feel good about him sticking with it. You know, that's just my opinion on it. But I mean, I think it's a big deal, and he was as good as you could expect yesterday.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam in Portland texted in, before he was coach there was a 0% chance that I would ever watch a Tennessee State University football game. Now I'm definitely going to watch. An Eddie George offense sounds pretty boring, honestly, but a Ray Lewis or Rod Woodson-led defense sounds fantastic. So Adam getting fired up.
Ray Lewis is going to be the DC? I have not heard that one.
I've heard Lewis rumors.
Well, Darren said on Darren Nonick and Chase yesterday, you know, that he had heard that they had actually looked at him first.
Yeah.
So if he brings him in here,
that'd be awesome.
Now, the Rod Woodson thing's been out there, but yeah, Ray Lewis still as a part of the staff.
If he brings in Ray Lewis as a part of the staff, I don't really care about their practice if I'm a player. I just want to see those two, like, put the pads back on and just run at each other again. I mean, it's one of the great moments of my childhood.
Oklahoma drill?
Yeah.
I guess I mean,
Eddie looks like he can still play, so.
I guess if you really want to nitpick on Eddie, I would say, like, maybe throw a little more than you like to as a player.
Yeah.
You know? Throw it
add a little little passing
a
attack.
little bit of 11 personnel. Not always have a fullback with your. But no, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fascinating, and look again, Austin P. I keep going back to them. I mean, they had that great run in the playoffs, and it got some attention. And Will Healy, you got some of that going there, but I think this has a potential for more than that.
Yeah, I agree.
With Eddie George in charge, and it's interesting too in this town. You have TSU. So Rod Reed worked his butt off. I mean, he was there for 11 years. He had some really good years. Faded late, but he did a lot of good work. I thought he was classy all the way. He's out. I look at Vanderbilt too. Now they have these new facilities coming in. Derek Mason out. Clark Lee, here you go.
Yep.
Stephanie White out. Now Shea Ralph, who has a press conference today. A lot of coaches in this town kind of starting over, but also probably going to have more opportunity to win than their predecessors.
I would agree. Make sure you're tuning in later on in the show as we reveal a keyword for you to text into the game line for your chance to win the T-Mobile Hockey Home Gate giveaway, a Dos Equis prize pack including a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. We'll have that opportunity coming up for you a little bit later here in the show. Speaking of Eddie George, there was a tweet yesterday from the Dallas Cowboys regarding Eddie George. They got a lot of people around here fired up. We'll react to that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Eddie's job now is to get us to care about TSU football, to actually care. We don't owe it to Eddie, and I love Eddie, but we don't owe it to Eddie to pay attention to TSU football. Eddie owes it to the fans and the university to get us to care about TSU football. Put a team on the field that is worth watching, and maybe people will watch.
That was Jared Stillman on Stillman and Company yesterday, talking about the hiring of Eddie George and the responsibility of Eddie George to put a team together on the field so that the fans will come out, they will support this team, and the larger sports fan here in Nashville will care about the TSU program. And it is interesting, Joe, to think about this TSU program, the hiring of Eddie George, and like how quickly they're going to be able to attract your casual sports fan here in Nashville. Like, we know that Eddie George is a huge name here in Nashville, and he is a Titans legend, and everybody loves Eddie George. Is that alone enough to get people who are maybe diehard Titans fans or people who love Eddie George to actually get invested in this TSU football program and to actually care about their success on the field? That's going to be an interesting question moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's limits to that, because once you get into college football Saturdays, you know, I mean, most people in this state who follow college football probably follow Tennessee, Vanderbilt, or they have Alabama, or they have their alma mater, whatever that may be. It's like, you know, it's hard to compete with Power 5 FBS football.
Sure.
But I do think that if this is in tandem with some facility upgrades, and, you know, there's already for the basketball program over there, Robert Covington is given money. Like, there's some really good positive things happening with TSU athletics really since Mickey Allen took over. I mean, if those things happen, I think you have a chance to have better crowds and in spots for people to rally around the team. And then, you know, if it gets to the point where TSU is making the FCS playoffs and making runs, then I think that's when you really could see, because some of those weekends are a little bit isolated from traditional college football schedules. It's later. It's kind of between that and the bowls. That's where it could be a big story around here.
Quick question.
It's a long way from that right now, but it could get there.
I know there's a lot more we want to get to later in the segment, but quick question on getting more eyeballs on the product. Do you feel like Eddie George not only has to have some sort of like James Franklin guerrilla marketing approach to TSU football, like what James Franklin did at Vanderbilt, but also scheduling games outside of Saturdays, like having a lot of Thursday night games at Nissan Stadium, things like that, where you're not getting buried on an SEC football Saturday?
I think that's a great idea. Now, how much of that is going to be up to him? I mean, some of that's the league and everything too, right? But I think so. I mean, look, like the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, they figured out, you know what? People tune in on a Tuesday night on ESPN to watch some action.
Yeah.
Watch a little Toledo, Bowling Green go up and down the field, right? I mean, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I hate like the Friday night stuff with college football and basketball. I haven't liked that because I think you really take away from high school sports. But Thursday, yeah, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Wednesday,
Get creative
Thursday.
with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Wednesday afternoon?
Sure.
Why not?
I mean, look, again, media perspective, a lot of us in this town are going to be at probably a Tennessee or Vanderbilt, or in the state, a Tennessee or Vanderbilt game on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to a TSU game. But if you have a chance to go to one on a Wednesday, okay. You know,
I agree.
It's a lot easier to skip like a Titans practice, although the Vrabel pressers are amazing.
Yes.
Than it is a game.
That's right. Well, Eddie George was a popular topic of conversation yesterday here locally, but there was a tweet sent out yesterday from the Dallas Cowboys that got some around here fired up as well. As we know, Eddie George played his final season of his NFL career with the Dallas Cowboys. He played in 13 games, had 432 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns for the Cowboys in his final season in the NFL. And this tweet yesterday, coming from the Dallas Cowboys: while the Dallas Cowboys are never short on current superstars, their legacy was built on legends. Eddie George becomes the most recent legend to join a collegiate staff as head coach. So we're talking about the Eddie George that's played in 13 games for the Dallas Cowboys. Now all of a sudden is a Cowboys legend, and that got especially Titans Twitter yesterday. They were rolling with that tweet from the Cowboys. It was wonderful.
Don't the Cowboys do do ridiculous stuff?
Yes.
Do you really who decided to do this? That is so stupid. You know what? Cowboys legend Eddie George reminds me of.
What's that?
49ers legend O.J. Simpson.
Yes.
Rams legend Joe Namath. Chiefs legend Joe Montana. Titans legend Randy Moss.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. When Randy Moss went into the hall, did the Titans account celebrate?
I don't think so.
They should have. Yes. Raptors legend Akeem Olajuwon. Cardinals legend Emmitt Smith. How about Hartford Whalers legend Gordie Howe?
Yes.
Or The Office legends Will Ferrell and James Spader.
Yes. Very well done.
Valerie's family. I hope someone out there text me if you get this reference. Valerie's family legend Sandy Duncan. Somehow
You lost me on that one.
Yeah. Sometimes TV shows they lose a star and then they have to replace it with another actor.
Yeah.
Either Bo or Luke Duke had
Yeah.
some rando come in at the end and it was this show's over. It's not exactly the same thing, but that's what it makes me think of.
New York Jets legend Brett Favre coming in there.
There you go. Send those pics.
Nashville Predators legend Peter Forsberg.
Yes.
Right. There you go.
It's true.
Aunt Vivian also, another one that makes me angry. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the original Aunt Vivian was way better. So, sorry.
It was just it's an interesting tweet yesterday from the Cowboys. Look, I'm all for congratulating Eddie George. That's great. And I'm all for celebrating Eddie George's entire career. But and I'm not sure if this was the intent by the Cowboys, but this is certainly the way it came off. To frame it in a way that he's just he's a Cowboys legend here, taking a job as a head coach. Okay, let's move along here, Dallas.
What percentage of Cowboys fans even know that Eddie George played a season there?
Oh, very few.
Or care. You know, I mean, come on. I mean,
that's true. And Scott points this out on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I've not even told you the best part yet. The original tweet from the Cowboys actually called him Eddie James. They deleted it and resent the correct tweet out. Yeah.
Come on.
Eddie James.
Eddie James?
Cowboys legend Eddie James, baby.
Oh, my gosh. Are you serious?
That just got better.
That's amazing. Eddie James? I got to know. See, this is where we need to find out who runs the Cowboys account. It's kind of like when the Vegas Knights came in here.
Eddie James.
And they accused you of cheering on press row?
It wasn't me, but yeah, they did. That guy's no longer there.
No, I've been told because I actually good friends with one of their PR people, and she's like, "Yeah, please stop bringing that up." I'm like, no way, I'll never stop bringing it up.
I got a texter on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com that says Chicago White Sox legend Michael Jordan.
Yeah, right. Or Washington Wizards legend Michael Jordan. There you go. You know, I mean, in Wizards history, the stirring Michael Jordan history.
Now, Joey from Gallatin on the text line says Broncos legend Peyton Manning. I think he actually is a Broncos legend.
He is.
I mean, if you win a Super Bowl somewhere, then I think that's a little different. If you're a starting quarterback to win a Super Bowl, I think it's even. That was one of those late career moves that you do remember.
Tampa Bay legend Tom Brady? Come on.
Same thing as Peyton.
Already?
Right? Sure.
Oh, man.
Bartles and James wine cooler legend Tom Brady.
A legendary mythical sea creature.
That's right.
It was really a great day in terms of the entertainment value yesterday in sports. You had that tweet with Eddie George, and I don't know if you've seen this, but you've got apparently Alex Rodriguez is trying to become an owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And Anthony Edwards, who is, of course, 19 years old, he's the star player, just taken in the draft by the Timberwolves, first overall. Really electrifying player. Was talking about A-Rod yesterday in his press conference and was asked if A-Rod was kind of a hero of his growing up, if he was excited for him coming in, and his response was legendary. Here's what Anthony Edwards had to say.
Do you have any thoughts about him? Are you an A-Rod fan at all growing up or anything like that? What do you think about what he might bring to the team?
A fan? What you mean? Like, who is he?
The baseball player, Alex Rodriguez?
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Okay.
I know he's going to be the owner, but I don't know nothing about baseball.
I don't know nothing about baseball.
Sorry, A-Rod.
I had no clue who A-Rod was. It's amazing.
That made me feel good.
You know, A-Rod didn't play that long ago. It's not been that long since he's played. Anthony Edwards has no time. for Alex Rodriguez.
Just take a little bit of that ego away from A-Rod there. I hope that humbled you, A-Rod. Yeah, that was
It's like, I know that he's about to be our owner.
whatever.
I don't know anything else.
Also, in the video, he's like fixing his afro.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The video's better. But, I mean, honestly, think about that question, though, too. It's like, what do you think he's going to bring to the team? Is he going to bring, like, some good –
I think he's really good in the corner, shooting threes.
No, he's got a good fielding percentage. You can put him in the 3-hole. I mean, come on. What is he going to bring to the team? He owns it.
Oh, that was amazing. And maybe it is. Maybe A-Rod needs an ego check. I mean, he's been trying. I thought he and J-Lo, they were going to buy the Mets forever. That didn't work. Now apparently the Minnesota Timberwolves on the docket for A-Rod.
Sure, the next logical step. T-Wolves.
Jack,
A-Rod and the T-Wolves, match made in heaven. We've all been waiting for this.
Jack from Dixon text in on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Boston Braves legend Babe Ruth. There's a lot you could go with this.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
That's well done.
Houston Rockets legends Charles Barkley, Scottie Pippen, and Clyde Drexler. This coming from Matt and Gallatin.
Yeah, see, and that was one of those kind of like super teams of kind of old guys, and maybe together they'd be great, but no, didn't work out.
Josh,
they were pretty good.
Josh on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Memphis Grizzlies legend Allen Iverson. Oh yeah, come on.
You could do Allen Iverson. You could do Allen Iverson. A lot of teams.
Nuggets,
legend.
Yeah.
Pistons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's. I mean, it's. The end of career move, Milwaukee Brewers legend Hank Aaron.
Yes.
How about Seahawks legend Jerry Rice?
Oh yeah. Oh,
that's
a good
the
one.
thing. See, I think of him as the Raiders, but you're right. At the very end, there you go. Like Chicago Blackhawks legend Bobby Orr.
Yes. Yes. Let's go to the text
Who the
line.
heck remembers that?
Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben text in. Am I wrong to feel like A-Rod could actually get rid of Edwards for saying that? He wouldn't say it, but it might actually happen. I'm going to say that you're not getting rid of Anthony Edwards because he doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
If he
I'm
does,
guess no.
We're off to a really poor start on the ownership front.
Yeah, we got a little problem with ownership. Yeah.
Yes.
Move out your first-round pick who could be a great player for a long time.
Because he didn't watch you play baseball.
Yeah. Because he doesn't remember the steroid era of baseball,
Exactly.
of which you were a wonderful part.
That's right. When we come back, an interesting story out of Buffalo in regards to fan attendance coming up here in the fall. We'll discuss that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Did you know that nearly 22 million children across the United States rely on free or reduced price meals during the school year? With many schools still closed due to the coronavirus outbreak, these children may lose their only source of food. Feeding America, the nation's largest hunger relief organization, is committed to serving children and their families facing hunger in America. You can make sure that children get their meals by donating now at radiocares.org or text radio to 62, if I could get the number out right, 662-266. Let me say that number again, 662-226. You can donate via text. A donation link will be sent to your phone, and donations from Nashville will benefit the Second Harvest Food Bank.
All right, say the number again.
The number is 662-2266.
Okay, there you go. Okay. I think
662.
there were 6 digits earlier.
662-2266.
2266. 662-2266.
662-266. Yes.
662-2266.
That is correct.
It's a Sally
Reading
sells
is hard.
seashells by the seashore number.
Well, it is, and it's also on the side of the page going all over the place here. So, but yeah.
662-266.
Correct. 662.
You just said 6 digits. No.
It is. 662-266.
Oh, my gosh.
So what are you doing?
I'm
It
saying
is 6 digits.
Okay. Well, that's the problem.
662-266.
There we go.
It's like radar spelled backwards.
There you go.
A palindrome.
Yes. Very good. So if you're able to donate, please do.
And
It'd be
this
greatly
is
appreciated.
a 24-hour radiothon
It is.
happening today. So
This is a day where radio comes together, and if you've got the resources to do that, there are people out there that would greatly appreciate that. So maybe something that gets lost in the shuffle with everything we've been through with the pandemic and coronavirus, but certainly a real problem in our country today. So if you've got resources to help, it would be greatly appreciated. Joe, there's an interesting story out of Buffalo that's come out, and it's regarding the Bills and the Sabres. And look, we're all hoping that, we're back to as close to normal as possible when football season comes back around and the fall comes around and maybe the next NHL season as well. But this story coming out from Buffalo where the Bills and the Sabres apparently are going to have to show, if you're a fan of those teams wanting to come to the game, you're going to have to show proof that you've been vaccinated against COVID-19 if you want to attend those games. The goal is to have 100% full house for the Bills and Sabres starting in the fall. And the plan is, unless you're vaccinated, you will not be allowed to have entry into the stadium. So, obviously, people are getting vaccinations left and right now. I got my first vaccination yesterday, so it's becoming more and more available as the days and weeks go by here. What do you think of this, that Buffalo requiring you to have a vaccine before you're allowed to enter the stadium, either with the Bills or with the Sabres?
I'm all for it. And I know that there's some people upset about it, but hey, I quoted Spicoli earlier. No shirt, no shoes, no dice. There's a lot of reasons you cannot be allowed into a football game. It's not. I mean, it's a privilege, although you have to pay for it. But the context of this also is that the anti-vaccination movement is real. It's concerning, and there's been a huge drop-off in vaccine appointments there up in Erie County. So
yep.
I hope I'd like to see this adopted. And there's concerns with this. There's some people, because you have to show it on your phone, and some people say, well, I don't have a phone like that. Or what about children? Because a lot of children aren't vaccinated. But I do think that the children aspect of this is interesting. It's not, look, there's always unintended consequences, not going to be perfect, but ultimately, if you want full stadiums, I think this is how to do it.
Yeah, I'm interested on this. I don't fully agree with you. Like, I understand the intent behind it, and it's good. Going into this, people are going to have a problem with it. Like, people have different views on their personal liberties and things like that, and I respect that. Now, to your point,
They're not living.
This is not, your right to breathe or
Exactly.
something like that.
Right.
Like, this is a football game.
You're allowed to still have lunch.
Right.
If you don't get vaccinated.
It's not like you're just, totally being removed from life here. It's a football game. But I am interested to see what the response to this is like. I saw some on social media yesterday. And like anything else on social media, it was about what you would expect. There were people yelling about it. There were people, yelling the other way in support of it, that's going to be the case here. I think you will have people that say, well, I'm not ever going to a Sabres game again, or I'm not going to a Bills game ever again, and maybe some actually won't, and some will end up getting their vaccine, and they will go to a Bills game, and they will be a part of Bills Mafia. They will be crashing tables outside of the stadium once the fall rolls around. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how the response that right now is ugly to it at times, how that continues to evolve here. Now, hopefully, with the vaccine, we're in a place where not only can you have 100% capacity, in Buffalo moving forward, hopefully, like by the time football comes, you can have pretty close everywhere. Like the SEC's planning for that. Alabama's talked about that. I'm sure Tennessee's planning for that too. And then you react accordingly if you can't. But with the way vaccinations have been trending, I don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibility that if you're not at full capacity, you could be pretty close to it by the time fall comes around.
Right, but that also hinges on people getting vaccinated, and which at some point gets us to herd immunity. I mean, that's the whole idea. Basically kill the virus,
Yeah.
I mean, that's – so I mean, look, like yesterday, for example, we had the story about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is the one I got. So, I'm sending this to my wife like, hey, check this out, Katie. So, but and I got it a few weeks ago, and the story is that there's some blood clotting that have caused them to discontinue it, which is going to hurt the overall numbers of people getting vaccinated.
I believe they found it in 6 women.
6 women
between
out
the ages of 18 to 48, I believe.
6 women out of 7 million people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a very, very, very low percentage. But you discontinue it to be safe, and you have news stories about it, and it's going to have an adverse effect on the entire movement. But I do understand that, like, there are people with religious views. You got to respect all religious views, and look, there are people, I know people who are kind of like anti-vaccination in general long before any of this. So I understand all that, but like you said, I mean, the bottom line is this is not. I mean, people are trying to make this like it's some draconian thing. I mean, this is you just can't come into this football game unless you have it. I'm sorry, you can go watch it at home. You're free to walk around the world.
Yeah.
Go around the earth and get into adventures, but you can't come to this football game unless you have confirmation that you got vaccinated. I have no problem at all with that, and I'd like to see it everywhere.
And we'll see if other franchises adopt this. Like, it started now in Buffalo with the Sabres and with the Bills. Like, do other franchises around the country kind of enact this same policy where if you don't have a vaccine, you're not able to come to an NFL game or an NHL game or an NBA game. Like, it's hard for me to believe that this is going to stop with the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres. Like, I would think maybe not everybody, but some other teams around professional sports will adopt this policy.
That's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're right that some will. I'll be surprised if it's across the board.
Oh, I would too. I don't think it's going to be across the board.
But it should be.
But it's going to be I do think you will see markets outside of Buffalo do this. And it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And hopefully we can get back to a place in the fall where we can all go back to sporting events, because I'll be honest with you, I miss going back to sporting events and hearing a crowd. It's gotten a little better with the Preds stuff lately, and a little bit better. I know Major League Baseball has had some big crowds as well, but I miss the days of watching a sporting event with a full crowd.
Yeah. I mean, let's pack everything. I miss the days of just going right to a bar and going right to the pretzel bowl and having no concerns.
Pretzel bowl.
Put my face in the pretzel bowl.
That's
so everybody get vaccinated.
That's right. When we come back, it's time for The Choice is Yours here on Robby and Rexrode. Robbie Stanley back in the questions chair this week. We'll do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. It is time for The Choice Is Yours here on Robby and Rexrode, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. We throw out different scenarios, both sports and in life, and then debate on how we would respond to said scenarios. Robbie Stanley, myself, vibing, back in the questions chair this week. Gentlemen, where would you like to start, sports or non-sports? Non-sports. All right. If you could live in anyone's head for 60 minutes, who would you choose and why? Anybody in the world, I guess anybody that's ever been in the world. If you could live in their head for 60 minutes, be with their thoughts, who would you choose and why? There's one guy to me that comes clearly to mind, but I'll let you.
I'm sorry. So when you say living in their head, you're not saying you control them. You're just saying that you get to observe their brain, how their brain works.
How their brain is functioning. You have no say in the matter whatsoever. I will start.
Yeah, you start.
Bill Walton immediately came to mind to me. I would like to live in Bill Walton's head for 60 minutes, especially during this past tournament run when the Pac-12 was going crazy and UCLA was getting things done. Just for 60 minutes, I don't want to stay there very long, but 60 minutes inside Bill Walton's brain, I think would be very entertaining.
And would this be like 60 minutes shortly after he's had some of his favorite brownies?
Well, maybe so.
Perhaps.
Maybe so. I didn't specify what sort of dietary habit he was going to be on before that.
That's I like that answer.
Okay.
Gosh, there's so many possibilities.
There are.
I mean, like the obvious one is like Albert Einstein, right?
Yeah.
Like some sort of a genius.
Yeah. Are you saying you're not a genius?
Oh, very close.
Okay.
I'm right on the verge, man.
Okay.
Like I'm just right on the cusp.
Just wondering.
But I think I might go. More along the lines of I'm thinking like a comedian, like someone who's really funny.
Okay.
And how it works. Mute issue. 1-0.
Was it though? Like it's still on.
Well, something's wrong with your mic.
It's back.
Oh, there you go.
So we're not
Does
blaming
that
him
count?
for that?
No, he doesn't get blamed for
There
that.
you go.
You're so
It was
easy.
on.
You're so easy on him. Okay.
Are you going to make a decision?
Richard Pryor.
Okay. Ryan Porth.
Give me Charles Barkley.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I would love to know just his entire thought process on everything in life.
Me too. I love me some Chuck. I love how you and I went with like two basketball guys.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you can pick anybody in the world.
I mean,
Porth and I picked two basketball guys.
From a gambling perspective, from a basketball perspective, from a life perspective, wanting to know whether or not he's ever going to do anything with his golf swing.
Oh, it's awesome.
I mean, there are so many routes that you can go by living in Charles Barkley's head for 60 minutes.
Okay, I like that.
That's good.
Moving over to sports. In honor of Eddie George, you can pick a former athlete with no coaching experience who you'd love to see take a shot at it. Who would it be? Is there an athlete that you would love to see take a shot at being a head coach? Because honestly, like I never thought about Eddie George being a coach before this, but now that he is, it makes a lot of sense. Like I'm very excited to see what this looks like.
This won't be my answer because we've already talked about him, so that's cheating. But honestly, like Ray Lewis would be on my list.
Yeah, he would.
For sure. We can't do pro wrestlers, right?
I guess
I'd love to see. No, I'm just
Roman
kidding.
Reigns.
Yeah. I've never heard of him until those tweets the other day. Incredible win for Roman Reigns.
Yes.
Whoa. Boy, that's a good one too. And it's like I fear that I'm gonna forget someone. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of football.
Okay.
Right?
It can be any sport.
It can be any sport, but like I'm thinking of like some of the wildest, football. Like, okay, another guy who was a coach, it didn't work out. But to me, it was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. It's Mike Singletary.
Yeah.
I
want winners.
That's right. Yeah.
Can I have the same answer as what I just said?
Sure.
I would love to see Charles Barkley be a basketball
Port's
coach.
a big fan of Charles Barkley.
That's actually a great call.
Yeah.
I mean, to see Charles get upset on the sideline with a ref.
He'd get teed up every game.
And waddle around out there.
Waddle.
That's a great call. I think you have to now make Charles Barkley your answer to every question,
Yes.
no matter what it is.
I think it's going to be Charles Barkley.
But I'm gonna go. I'm going pure entertainment value. I mean, it's got to be Dennis Rodman. Give me the worm. The worm coaching.
I like that.
I mean, just imagine that.
All the hand signals.
Oh, man.
That'd be great.
And just like that would be fascinating. You wouldn't be able to even look at the.
I would care about the
court.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be pure Rodman.
I need an ISO cam on Rodman the whole time.
Worm cam only. Yeah, give me Rodman.
Who would have the better post-game press conferences, Rodman or Barkley?
Oh, that's a tough one. They're both great in different ways, but both great.
Both elite.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going Peyton. I mean, I'd love to see Peyton as a head coach. Mine was a very boring answer. But like, would he be good at it? I don't know.
I don't know
Sometimes the great players, they can't quite do it.
His pressers would be good, too.
Yeah, they would.
No, that would be fascinating.
Give me some Peyton Manning. All right, back to non-sports. This is a very an interesting question from your personality. If you became a high school teacher, what subject would you teach?
Charles Barkley.
Thank you. The history of Charles Barkley.
He should at least be like a college class, right?
Yeah, sure.
Charles Barkley. I mean, there's some weird college classes.
Oh, yeah.
Why not a Barkley class?
You major in Chuck?
Major. Any subject. If you're a high school teacher, what subject would you teach?
Well, like, this is a boring answer too, but like it'd be one of two things. It'd be English or history.
Okay.
Because it would be laughable for me to teach any science or math.
I was really hoping you'd say math.
I will say that being a PE teacher wouldn't be all bad either, but yeah, probably English and try to run a school paper because there's too many schools that don't have school papers now. I mean, my high school, our paper was in an English class.
Yeah,
part of an English class. So yeah, that'd be my choice.
Mine had a journalism program at high school.
See,
the Commando Post. I was the editor.
See, there you go. Nice.
I would be a history teacher. I'm a big history guy.
You were the editor of the Commando Post?
Yeah, bro.
I was the editor of the Rebel Review.
Hey, yeah.
Franklin
high school paper editors in here.
I was not the editor of, oh my gosh, what the heck?
You
was the name
weren't?
of it? No, I was not. No, I was.
Out of all three of us, I would have definitely tabbed Rexrode.
I mean, I was a sports writer, but no, I was not.
You were too good to be the editor.
I was not fit for a leadership role.
Oh, okay.
But I like I said, I got the whole English department to join my NCAA tournament pool and gamble illegally. So
that's good.
At least I got that going
well done.
for me.
Fourth, what subject would you teach?
Keyboarding.
Keyboarding?
Oh, like typing?
Yes.
That was one of the most important classes I took.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying of all the subjects, he was keyboarding.
Well, I would not be a good English, history, science, or math teacher.
Those are four important things.
So by process of elimination, I'm not athletic enough to be a gym teacher.
Oh, you don't have to be athletic
I was
to be a
gonna say-
gym teacher.
I was just going to say, can Chase
don't.
McCabe be the gym teacher in
Yes.
this fantasy high school?
Yes, he can.
He was the water boy for Franklin Road Academy.
Was he really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
What would Jared teach?
Oh, I mean, it'd take a heck of a lecture. I don't know what it would be.
It would be some subject where he can just talk the whole time.
I mean, history comes to mind. You got to talk a lot.
Filibustering with Jared Stillman.
Oh,
I actually think he would be a pretty good history teacher.
do you?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Don't derail us making fun of Jared with a serious comment.
Let's go to the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Got a texture that says, Franklin High represent, Porth. Lots of love for Franklin High School.
Absolutely.
Andrew says keyboarding is being taught in second grade now. Not in high school.
Well,
but is it just phone keyboarding?
I don't know.
There are some people in high school that need keyboard lessons.
That's true. That is true.
Or teaching or whatever.
It's an important class.
The final question on today's edition of The Choice is Yours. Your Preds all-time 3-on-3 overtime line. So you can pick any player in Predators franchise history. You've got to put together one line for 3-on-3 overtime. Which way are you going? Who are you picking?
Paul Correa, Philip Forsberg, and Roman Josi.
Who's taking the face-off?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, it matters.
Forsberg was drafted as a center.
Okay. All right. So 2 number 9s and Roman Josi.
2 9s and a 59.
There you go. Paul Correa is on mine as well. Roman Josi is on mine as well. I would go, I believe, and I think I'm going Peter Forsberg. I think it'd be awesome. Even though he was not the same guy. He's still pretty good here. He's a point-per-game guy with the Predators. Maybe Forsberg, Correa, and Josi.
So two different Forsbergs.
Two different Forsbergs
for answers.
Also, mainly because he can take a face-off.
Yeah, I mean, that is important. I'm going to have to go Yossi for sure.
No love for Shea Weber. I get it. It's 3-on-3.
Yeah, we're talking
It's a little
3-on-3, right? I mean, you take a slap shot from the defensive zone, you might score, but I was actually thinking about Peter Forsberg too.
You can take him.
You're having a hard time making decisions this morning.
Well, but the guy the guy I'm thinking about is like if you're talking about player in their best state with the Preds.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I really like Arvidsson as a weapon in 3-on-3.
Agreed.
You know?
He's fast.
So I'll dismiss your face-off issue and go Yossi, Philip Forsberg, Victor Arvidsson.
No respect for Paul Kariya from Joe Rexrode.
I like Paul Kariya. Preds legend Paul Kariya.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Predators legend Paul Kariya. Still the single-season leading scorer for the Predators, 85 points. That has been today's edition of The Choice is Yours. Gentlemen, good job. Appreciate your participation.
Those are great questions,
Thank
man.
you. When we come back.
Vibing with your questions.
Thank you. We're all vibing here on the program. When we come back, it's time to look ahead at the NFL Draft. Dane Brugler from The Athletic will join us next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios powered by RumbleOn.com here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
We're vibing, Robby.
Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. And it's that time of the week, time for our Draft Outlook segment, brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans and by Apple Collision Centers, leading up to the NFL Draft. Just over 2 weeks away at this point. So we are getting closer and closer. And to help us talk about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in NFL draft analyst for The Athletic, Dane Brugler. Dane, what's going on, man? Thanks for taking time to join us.
No, good morning, guys. Thanks.
So, Dane, I have to start with this. We've seen the beast that you've put together, and it is a popular topic of conversation on NFL Twitter. Do you ever get any sleep when you're putting that thing together? I mean, we're talking about 636 prospects, 415 scouting reports. It is an impressive feat, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it. It's a labor of love and something it's really a year-round process. It takes a full year to get all that information, to feel comfortable with what I'm putting out there. But, yeah, those last few months, January, February, March, not a ton of sleep. My family knows to kind of, give me a little bit of space. And, it was nice to be able to put the draft guide out there and then, reintroduce myself to my kids. And they grew. It was good to see them. So, no, it's great. The feedback's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun conversation the last week, talking about these players. All the pro day data is in the guide, which I take a lot of pride in because no combine this year. Having that NFL verified pro day information is so important. So it's just a really challenging draft process, and so really fun to talk about these guys in a very unique type of year.
Yeah, like what, 262,000 words, I think. Is that right? So do you have a total lifetime beast word count at this point? Like, you keeping a running tab there?
I'd be kind of scared to look at that. I mean, last year I know it was around 250, and so I was curious, was I going to beat it this year? And we just surpassed that. So I don't try to make it wordy, I promise. I just try to put as much relevant info in there as possible and, see where it shakes out.
Yeah, no, it's tremendous. And as a fan, you should want to read this. You will be a smarter fan. I know for me, Dane, I mean, just looking at like the Titans draft, I did something this week, through the eyes of the beast, basically like based on these, who fits the Titans. And speaking of that, you also have a mock here and a very interesting choice for the Titans. Christian Barmore, defensive tackle from Alabama. We haven't thought much in terms of interior linemen, but certainly one of many needs that this team has. Why have you thought about Barmore to the Titans there?
I think it's more of a value pick there. I think that I'm not saying that the interior defensive line is the biggest need, but that's not how you should look at the draft. I don't think that's how the Titans look at the draft or will attack this draft. They're going to look at it as, okay, first-round pick, how are we going to get better on defense or on offense? Who's going to impact our roster the most? And I think, Christian Barmore could be in that conversation. It's someone they've looked at. It's someone that I don't expect to be maybe a popular pick. I think most Titans fans are looking at pass rusher there or, maybe a corner or, there's other positions that they could use. But the chance to upgrade an already a solid defensive line and upgrade that and make it an even better defensive line is something that I think will be appealing to this organization, especially when you consider, what happens later on for the Titans in this 7-round mock. I think even though I know a lot of fans won't be thrilled with a defensive lineman who can play inside-outside, I think he fits that scheme well. I think what the Titans did the rest of the way will at least make it take some of the sting off of defensive linemen early.
Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst for The Athletic, on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dane, a guy that we've talked about some around here leading up to the draft has been Caleb Farley as well, of course, cornerback out of Virginia Tech, who, I mean, by all accounts, is a really good player, but you got the back injury that you're concerned about as well if you're an NFL team. How big of a concern would that injury be to you if you're an NFL team in regards to where you draft Caleb Farley?
Oh, it's why I have medical staff and trainers on the payroll, because they're going to tell me what I should be worried about and all the details. With Caleb Farley, it's his second back procedure. He also has an ACL during his time at Virginia Tech. So there are multiple injuries here that you have to worry about. And so I'm going to talk to my doctor and just ask flat out, do we see him first? Is he going to be ready for training camp? Is he going to be ready for the start of the season? And then secondly, long term, what does it look like for, the rest of his rookie contract? Do you foresee any issues? And if they tell me that, he could always re-injure something, but for right now, it healed well, he should be fine, should play out his rookie contract, no problem. Then I start to think about, okay, well, where do I feel comfortable drafting him? Maybe the late teens, the early 20s, right around where the Titans are slated to pick right now. So, but if I don't get that type of information from my doctors, then all of a sudden, the conversation changes a little bit. So really, it's, neither of us are really qualified to talk about it because there's so much that goes into the medical aspect of this. But that's why, teams have those guys on the payroll to figure it out.
Dane, I asked this of everyone who analyzes the draft, and I'm going to ask it of you. What am I missing with Justin Fields? I feel like he's potentially a great quarterback in this league, and I know that most of these guys who go high don't end up being, living up to their draft spot. But what is your feeling right now on Justin Fields?
A really talented player. I would absolutely roll the dice on those traits in the top 10 for my team. But would I prefer Zach Wilson over him? Yes. Would I prefer Trey Lance? Barely. Those two guys are very closely rated for me. But I do prefer Trey Lance. But these are ice cream flavors. They're all really good. It's just they're different preferences. We have different tastes with what you're looking for at the position. My main issue with Justin Fields is he's just a little too methodical at times with the way that he is making his reads and making his throws. And I think he can get better in that area. He can speed things up and be a little more urgent. And I think he can get there. But, I've seen it from, Trey Lance and Zach Wilson. And that's one of the reasons I love Zach Wilson. He's so spontaneous, but at the same time, he's still very, very accurate. So that's why Zach Wilson to me is, the easy pick there at number 2. And then it gets a little dicey. Okay, Trey Lance, he's less experienced. He's coming from the FCS level. Justin Fields has done more on the bigger stage. You could really, I think, really break down both of these players. I could see why you'd come away loving both of them and then make it a really tough choice. So I think somewhere in the top 10, Justin Fields is going to hear his name. It's just kind of tough to figure out, okay, where is he going to go? Number 3 with the 49ers, that's really the domino. Which quarterback are they going to take? Mac Jones, there's too much smoke there. He's at least high in the conversation. And then what does Atlanta do at number 4? Is the right quarterback there where they're going to take the eventual successor to Matt Ryan? Or do they feel like, let's take the best player here, Kyle Pitts? Or maybe they get blown away with an offer for a trade-up opportunity that they can't pass up. And then if there is a trade-up, who's that going to be? Denver? The Patriots? Could Washington make a move? So the quarterback conversation after the first 2 picks is really fascinating.
Is Mac Jones the next Kirk Cousins?
I think you can look at that, and that's a fair comparison. Whether it's Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins, I think it makes sense. A guy who is, plays really well with his mind, the way he can anticipate, the way he processes things really efficiently, and not just his reads down the field, but the rush and the way he can navigate in the pocket, move around, those subtle little movements. We can talk about how he's not an elite athlete. He's not Justin Fields when you talk about a 40-yard dash or the movement skills. But he has the pocket movements where he's not going to get flustered. He's not going to let the pocket eat him up. That obviously is a big factor in the NFL. That's how, Tom Brady is not a premier athlete, but because he has that poise in the pocket and that ability to navigate, it's part of what makes him so successful. And so with Mac Jones, you see some of that. And so there are a lot of things that check the boxes with him. It's just, you have to decide, okay, is the mobility good enough? Is the arm strength good enough? Does he hit those thresholds where he's good enough in those other areas where, he's going to prop up, or is the mental part of it, the accuracy, the decision-making, is that able to prop up maybe his, lack of physical traits that ideally you're looking for at the quarterback position?
Dane, last thing for you here. Another position group that the Titans could have interest in would be wide receiver. And we hear it all the time. receivers more and more coming out of college are NFL ready and are able to come in and contribute right away. Just in your opinion, as you look at this draft, how deep is the wide receiver position? How far along would you be comfortable with if you're the Titans in terms of bringing somebody in that can help you right away?
It's a loaded position, there's no question, and we talked about it a lot last year, and this year it's similar. We're going to see guys go early in this draft, very high, but the position stretches. Second round, third round, even into the fourth round, you're going to be able to find guys that are going to come in and contribute pretty quickly to your offense. That second round, you look at guys like Terrace Marshall or Rondale Moore, De'Ami Brown. Third round, it depends what type of receiver you're looking for. You're looking for more of a possession threat. Okay, well, then that's Amon-Ra St. Brown from USC. You're looking for a physical competitor, Tylan Wallace from Oklahoma State is your guy. If you're looking for a home run threat, Tutu Atwell, a guy that compares very favorably to a Marquise Brown with the Ravens. Undersized, vastly undersized, but he can fly down the field. He can create after the catch. There's a lot of things you can do with that type of player in your offense and how he's going to affect the rest of your receivers. Just the threat of his speed down the field is something that defenses have to account for. So this wide receiver class, if the right guy is there in the first round, by all means, go get your guy. But it's not a position where you have to get him early. You can wait to the second, third, fourth rounds and still feel comfortable with the caliber of player you're getting at that point.
Dane Brugler, NFL draft analyst for The Athletic, has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Dane, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to join us.
Anytime, guys. Take care.
Absolutely. Dane Brugler, one of the best in the business. That's our Draft Outlook segment brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans and by Apple Collision Centers as well. That beast that he puts together in his draft analysis, it's unbelievable. It's crazy, the amount of detail in that thing.
Yeah, it's a heck of it's actually a heck of a resource now, of course, going into a draft. It's a fantastic resource later, too, even when you talk about looking back at what a player, how a player was evaluated, how different that is, and he's dead on with these guys in a lot of cases, and just has every bit of information you could have on someone. He goes into even personal stuff with guys, high school stuff with guys, and then obviously all the measurables and all the analysis of the film. So it's like every year I read it and then I think differently about a lot of players than I did before because it's just really valuable information.
When we come back, we'll react a little bit more to what Dane Brugler had to say there. Taking your thoughts on our text line as well, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. The NFL draft, a little bit more than 2 weeks away at this point. So we're getting real close here to the Titans having some answers about their future and about the NFL draft. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on Thursday, April 29th, and on Friday, April the 30th on 102.5 The Game, presented by Founders Brewery, Apple Collision Centers, and MTGRT.com, your live and local mortgage expert. Just a couple of weeks away now from the NFL draft getting underway, and it's exciting times, Joe. We heard Dane Brugler there from The Athletic in the last segment talk about kind of the different options you've got if you're the Titans, and going with Christian Barmore in the first round of his latest mock draft. That's an interesting name. We've not talked about that in that position all that much in the first round of the draft, but Brugler saying, look, it's not necessarily the biggest need, but it's a good value pick at that time. And if you're the Titans, maybe that's the way you operate, and if that's your highest-rated player left on the board, maybe Barmore's a guy you consider at number 22 overall.
If you're going to stay true to the big board and he's there, maybe that could be the pick. And look, there are other needs, but if he's what people think he is and you have him and Simmons together up there, again, there's where all of a sudden whoever you have on the edge is better automatically because of that, because you can blow people up inside. So I don't hate it. Of his 7-round mock, there are a few picks that I have had as well, but one that I actually took a little crap for this week. I did a thing about on The Athletic after reading his thing. I did 15 possible picks for the Titans. Okay. So 3 at each position, 1 early, middle, late, and late being the 3rd round. So basically, like of those top 100 picks they have, those 4 in the top 100. Here's 15 possibilities, and I put out there. I bet they pick at least 2 of these people. One of the people I put on there that he has them taking is Tutu Atwell. Louisville. Now,
wide receiver.
I've expressed my admiration for Rondale Moore many times.
You have.
And Dane Brugler brought that name up there too. Tutu Atwell is another one of those. It would be like you are drafting a slot receiver.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the Titans want to think about it that way or not, but they did sign a dedicated slot receiver and gave him a lot of money in Adam Humphries. If that's the way they're looking at it, Tutu Atwell is a fascinating player because he's 155 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's like, please, get the guy
Don't get
some
hit.
pizza, have a sandwich. But he also runs like a 3.7 40. So
That's pretty fast.
That's pretty fast. I might be exaggerating a bit. But the bottom line is he is a blazing, just like he's one of, you're always looking for the next Tyreek Hill in this league. And most of them probably won't be close to that. But Tutu Atwell is a fascinating guy
now
with his speed and just after the catch ability as well.
Now, as we know, Tutu Atwell is a Louisville guy.
Oh,
We've
yes.
got a Louisville guy on our program, on our station here. Jared Stillman.
Is he angrily texting?
He's not a fan of Tutu Atwell.
Oh, of course he's not. Oh, hey, you know what? You know what else Jared said? Lamar Jackson will never be an NFL quarterback. I know Louisville well. I don't know if that is not at all what Jared sounds like, but I don't trust Jared's Louisville analysis at all.
He says Tutu Atwell can't catch.
Yeah, he's had a little bit of dropsies.
That's important.
You can work on that, right? Come on.
I mean, Nick Westbrook-Akina had the dropsies, according to you, in training camp.
Oh, he did.
So?
Oh, he absolutely did. And he's about to be their number 1 receiver. So
Apparently
I mean,
so.
Let's twist what everyone says.
Apparently so. It was interesting to get Brugler's thoughts on wide receiver because I still look at this team, and with Corey Davis gone, I know Reynolds is coming in, but you're going to need another wide receiver. That's why I was fascinated to get his thoughts on exactly how deep this is. And he said, look, if your guy's there in the first round, then go get him. But if he's not, you could still select a receiver in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round that you can feel pretty good about and that could come in and help you right away. So I do wonder, if you're John Robinson, how much do you value that part of it in terms of, yeah, we need a receiver, but if it's not a guy we're absolutely in love with in the first round, you can afford to wait at that position, whereas maybe with other positions you can't afford that quite as much.
Well, I think receiver, edge is another one where I think, and honestly, offensive tackle is deep as well. The interesting thing where I might argue with Dane's latest mock and what he has with the Titans is, can they go to their 4th pick and wait till then at cornerback? See,
That'd
because
be tough.
that's just because I feel like you've got to you've got to have someone you feel like can start for you as a rookie, at least at some point in their rookie season. I really look. Maybe Kevin Johnson will prove me wrong here, but I feel like, look, you are counting heavily on Christian Fulton. Janoris Jenkins, you should be fine there. If Kevin Johnson is your third guy starting, I don't think that bodes well for your secondary. I think you got to draft someone you feel like can come right in. And is it harder to be able to count on that if you wait till pick 100? I would think so. But again, what happens is it's just like, tight end in this draft. You got generational talent, and then you go a big drop to the next one. And then there's a lot of guys that are similar. And, you may have a lot of corners in the Titans board who are similar after like the top 3 or whatever the case may be. I just would bet that they will take a corner earlier than 100.
I would too, and I think you've got to do that based on what you said. Like, it's not only Kevin Johnson being a part of the starters rotation, but also like you really don't know what Christian Fulton is right now. Like you think you have a good idea. You picked him in the second round. I like a lot of what I saw at LSU, but we didn't see much of him last year. Like, you don't really know what Christian Fulton is at this level. So I think that elevates the need of cornerback, where you've got to get somebody that you feel good about pretty high, and maybe that continues to knock down receiver. Like, if you're taking a corner in the first round, are you going receiver in the second round? Or what are you going to do at tight end? Like, edge rusher's still a need as well. Like, the more I think about this, the more I think it is possible that you don't see the Titans select a wide receiver until the third or fourth round, where if you would asked me 3 weeks ago, right when or a month ago, whenever it was, when Corey Davis left, I would say, yeah, you might have to take a wide receiver in the first round if you're the Titans.
Right. I think the obvious need-based drafting that John Robinson did was in 2017.
Yes.
Corey Davis at 5 was a massive reach, and that's where you have to be true to your big board, And I think again, so I don't hate Barmore. I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have picked that, but if you are that high on him and he's there for you and he's just above anyone else you have, you got to do it, And I also feel like the trade down, the closer and closer we get to this draft, the trade down scenario to add another pick in there with all these needs looks very attractive for the Titans.
When the Preds have a weekday game this season, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click, brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka. If you guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the game that night, you will win a prize pack. The next chance to participate is tomorrow morning at 8:45, so make sure you're tuned in for that. And speaking of the Nashville Predators, a big win last night for the Preds. They throttle the defending Stanley Cup champions 7-2. We'll talk about it next. What did we learn about the Preds last night? Does that give us more confidence in a potential playoff series with Tampa Bay and or Carolina as they move forward here? We'll discuss it next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Feeds now. Sissons coming on from the left circle, and Colton Sissons puts it in the net. Here comes Yossi in right side. Yossi the shot, and he scores! Roman Yossi picks up the loose puck just outside the blue line. And the Predators have themselves a 2-0 lead. Up the right board, now some room. Ryan Johansson, 2-on-1. Johansson across, and the shot of the score. Victor Arvidsson makes it 3-zip. Predators 3 in the first, 1 in the second, and 3 in the third to win this game 7-2.
The Predators vibing right along last night. 7-2 winners against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They take down the reigning Stanley Cup champions and do so in impressive fashion. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. And speaking of the Nashville Predators, Preds fans, make sure you're joining 102.5 The Game tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for Smashville Live, featuring former Preds player Colin Wilson, hosted by myself, Robbie Stanley, and by Lindsay Rowley as well. You can also watch the show online via 102.5 The Game's Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TheGameNashville.com. Smashville Live brought to you by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue. Joe, really impressive for the Predators last night. They get it done 7-2. Now, I realize that Andrei Vasilevsky did not play and Curtis McElhinney was in the net, but I don't really care. Like I thought the Predators, especially in that first period, with the odd man rushes that you're generating and, Colton Sissons off the rush, Roman Yossi off the rush on a great neutral zone play from Rocco Grimaldi there. I mean, they just came out in the first period and they played like their hair was on fire. I mean, the pass on the 2-on-1 from Johansson to Arvidsson, it's a heck of a pass. It's a heck of a play. Arvidsson with 2 goals last night. Yossi with 3 points last night. It was really impressive, and I think a statement game to some degree last night for the Predators. I know the talk after the game out of Tampa Bay was, all right, we didn't play well. They've got to get back to playing a certain way and committing to playing a certain way. I think John Cooper, Tampa Bay head coach, said it doesn't matter if you had Dominic Hasek in net or Marty Brodeur or Patrick Waugh in net. They would have given up some goals with the chances they gave up last night. So Tampa Bay viewing it more as a failure on their part, but I thought the Predators, especially in the first period, they came out with an energy that put Tampa Bay on their heels, and they never quite recovered from it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like John Cooper's going to say that because, like, why did you sit Vasilevsky?
Yeah.
I was a little surprised, even though, like you said, I mean, he's been playing a ton. Not a bad idea to get him some rest, but they have been sitting around here since Saturday, you know. But those are
and he had a shutout.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I agree. Like some of those chances you're talking about, like they had a stretch there in the first period with odd man rush after odd man rush, and I mean that's going to be tough for any goalie to deal with all that. It was a statement win. I mean, it was a statement win, in a way, because it was the day after the trading deadline and all that didn't happen and all that was said that day. And they're just playing really well. And it's crazy to think that we talk about this team playing this committed, tight-checking, defensive kind of style, and they've got 3 7-goal games recently. It's perfect coach. Coaches love this stuff. It's like, see, you work and you're attentive and you aren't cheating to try to help, to try to get offensive chances, and you actually get more.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that has gone hand in hand. Like they've committed to playing a certain way, and you've been able to generate some of these odd man rushes because of it. Like, look, it's one thing to hang up 7 on Detroit. Even though when you got your backup goalie in, like hanging up 7 on Tampa Bay, that says something. Like, they've still got a really good defense core out there. They added to it. David Savard comes in with his first game yesterday. Hedman is still there. Like, I thought it was an uncharacteristically bad night from Victor Hedman for the most part, which you're not going to see very often. But that says something to me that you're hanging up 7 goals on the defending Cup champions. And, Joe, since they've started this turnaround, now they've won 13 out of their last 16 games. You've played Tampa Bay 3 times during that stretch. You've won 2 out of the 3. And in the one game you lost, I think by all accounts you played pretty well, and you just got beaten by a good goaltender on that night. Do you feel any differently with this group right now? If it's Tampa Bay winning the division and it's the Predators ending up in the 4th spot, do you feel any differently about the way a playoff series could go than maybe this time a week ago, this time a week and a half ago.
Well, I'm assuming Tampa Bay has not only Vasilevsky in goal, but has Stamkos and Kucherov on the ice.
That would be a good assumption.
Makes a little bit of a difference for them. But you know what? If you tell me that Forsberg, Duchesne, Tolvanen, and others are back, and all it is an addition of punch and skill, and it's no detraction at all from the way they're playing, I'd be watching those games. I'd be excited to watch that series. I think it could be interesting.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Caleb texted in, where are all the people who said to trade Granlund? He's playing his butt off and is one of the best players on the team.
I'm right here, buddy.
I don't think anybody ever disputed that he was one of the best players on the team. That doesn't mean it's not a good idea to trade him.
Yeah, and when a player is playing well, it's a good. You can get things back for that player. I mean,
look at it. Like the more time that goes by and the more Granlund continues to produce, the more they keep winning, the more you justify keeping him in the fold here.
Right, but did we ever say trade Granlund because he sucks?
No.
The point is not you got to move that guy out of here, get him out of there. No, the point is he has an expiring contract. You may not be able to re-sign him. You could get something out of him for your future now. It had nothing to do with his performance.
Let's go back to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Nate texted in, I think I'll start believing more and more in this team if they play well against the Hurricanes Thursday and Saturday. Last night could have been a flash in the pan. Now, it wasn't just last night. This is 13 out of 16, but it is a game against Tampa Bay where you're not hanging up 7 against Tampa Bay every night. But I am interested to see, to Nate's point, how do you respond against the Carolina team that's played really well against you this year? You're 0-3-1 against the Hurricanes, and in most of those games, it's not really even been all that competitive. Carolina has really controlled it from start to finish. Now, this is a different Preds team than I think most of those games were. Can you kind of channel that and continue this momentum that you've built up over the last 16 games?
Yeah. I mean, we're past flash in the pan neighborhood, but I have felt like consistently Carolina has been the worst matchup for the Preds this year. Again, I mean, really, when we talk about the Preds this year, there's like early Preds and late Preds.
Yeah.
These are the vibing Preds. Those were the flubbing Preds.
That's right.
Okay? From flubbing to vibing.
We're vibing, Robby.
Yeah, buddy.
There's another T-shirt.
Yes, from flubbing to vibing.
30% go to Robby.
That's right.
But I do think that I understand a little bit of more wait and see. Let's see. Is it different against them too? It's been different against this team and that team. I mean, look, I think there's been some impressive performances against a desperate Dallas team.
Yep.
I mean, Chicago is going the wrong way, but those were big. Yes, you can throw out the Detroit stuff. But most of this run has been, I think, credible performances. And now you rout Tampa Bay, and so now you get to this level. Can you keep it going against this team that has really outclassed you pretty thoroughly in 4 meetings?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And Carolina, it's a different matchup than Tampa Bay. Like, I would still, if you were forcing me to choose between the two of them, I think Tampa Bay is more dangerous, especially when you get Stamkos and Kucherov back. It's not even really a conversation. But this Carolina team is really, really good. I mean, they are very good. They don't have a weakness, in my opinion. I know some people will point to goaltending and say, all right, but yeah, can you really win a Stanley Cup with Peter Mrazek? Yes, you can when you have the puck the entire game. You can absolutely win a Stanley Cup with Peter Mrazek. So I think this is a huge test for them as they move forward. And look, if they play well in these 2 games against Carolina, and you don't even have to win both of them, but if you play well in these 2 games against Carolina, like, I think we're getting more and more to the point of, all right, this is not just a hot streak. This is not just, a hot goaltender carrying you. There is a discernible change with this group that doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. If you can keep that going against Carolina, I don't know how you couldn't feel better about your chances heading into the playoffs. Like, there's still, if they're matched up with Tampa Bay or Carolina in the first round, or, I mean, even Florida, they're going to be the underdogs in that series. And depending on who it is, differing levels of underdogs in that series. But I don't know how, if you're a Predators fan, you can't, think about your last 3 matchups with Tampa Bay and think about the way this team is playing and not at least think that you give yourself a chance. Like, a couple of weeks ago, if you'd asked me if they had any chance against Tampa Bay or Carolina, I wouldn't have said 0%, but it'd been pretty close to it. I'm like, that'd been a little rough. I still would not pick them to win, but I think the Nashville Predators that I've seen the last couple of weeks, they could absolutely give Tampa Bay a series. I have no question about that.
So which happens first, the Preds cooling off or most of Nashville feeling that the we're vibing thing is like a pedal tavern?
Ooh, that's a good question.
If the Preds don't cool off, you gotta embrace it, right?
Yeah.
I think they go hand in hand.
It's got to be hand in hand.
So like if they cool off, then people will get mad about it, like Vingan already is.
Yeah, it took him 2 days. 2 days.
Vingan is a hater of fun.
He is.
I kind of wonder if the Preds are getting Carolina at the right time this week because they just lost 2 straight home games to Detroit.
Right, and it could be getting them at the wrong time.
Could be the bad time.
True.
Yeah, the wrong time.
True, but I mean, Tampa Bay has been up and down here in the last month. They haven't really been playing to their potential. I mean, they got smoked by Detroit.
They do, but I kind of view those two. I mean, Tampa Bay, you just want a cup. Like, I think Carolina's still building to try to get to something. Tampa Bay knows who they are. Like, they know how good they are. They know they're in the playoffs, and they know they're going to be dangerous. Like, to me, I still think there's a little bit of, hey, let's get through the end of this season and get to the playoffs if you're Tampa Bay. I don't know if I sense the same vibe from Carolina.
No, I think there's a big difference, and Tampa Bay also knows what can happen because it happened to them 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So they have like everything that you would want intangibly going into a postseason. Carolina's trying to prove itself.
If you're in cruise control too long, we've seen that backfire on teams come playoff time.
And that's,
sure, and I think you started to see some of that last night. Like McDonough was furious after the game last night, saying this effort's nowhere close to good enough. Said some things that probably can't repeat on the air. Like they're ready to go. So maybe last night's a wake-up call for Tampa Bay, but I'm not worried that like Tampa Bay they're just all of a sudden going to fold it in, and the playoffs come and they're not going to be able to turn it around. Like I still feel pretty good about them.
And they're in a race, so those top 3 are locked in. But hey, maybe they'd want to avoid the Preds.
Maybe so.
Maybe they'd rather be the 2 or 3.
Maybe so. When we come back, speaking of the Preds, we'll be joined by Predator centerman Matt Duchene, who joins us every week at 8:45 on Wednesdays. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth with you on this Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. The Predators are vibing right now. A 7-2 win last night against the reigning Stanley Cup champions. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Predators centerman Matt Duchene, brought to you by Gary Ashton Remax Advantage and by Two Rivers Ford. Matt, what's going on, brother? How we doing?
Hey, good. How about you guys?
We are doing great. Appreciate you taking time to join us this morning. What'd you think of that game last night? A 7-2 win for your guys against the Tampa Bay Lightning, winners of 13 out of their last 16 games. It's been a really fun stretch of hockey to watch as of late.
Yeah, it has. No, I mean, I don't know if I expected the boys to, win that way, but, it was great to see. I mean, you get up to a hot start, and we're starting to score more, and we look like a little more dangerous, a little more creative out there, and it's producing. So great to see, and I'm excited to jump back in at some point here and hopefully join in on that.
Okay, I'll be the guy to ask that again then. What anything improving, Matt? Do you have any sort of feel on timeline?
Yeah, finally. I had a good step in the right direction on the weekend, and so I'm hoping, in the next week or so here, we're still kind of going through it. I'm going to skate today again, but I finally got over the hump here a little bit. So it took longer than we expected and thought. Just a lot of swelling and stuff holding me back. But that seems to be in the clear now, or gone. So. It's something that, it's not going to be perfect going forward, but it won't really affect, it shouldn't affect the way that I'm able to perform. So I'm excited I'm excited to finally have some light at the end of the tunnel. It was really frustrating there for a bit after after thinking I was going to beat my timeline, then being a little bit behind it. So, just excited to get back.
Well, great news on that front, Matt, and I'm sure, like you mentioned there, it's frustrating anyway when just the injury part of it takes place, but, watching the team completely turn this thing around as well and go from, maybe a seller at the deadline to now firmly in a playoff spot. You've won 13 out of the last 16 games, and you've had to be just chomping at the bit to get back in on this action.
Yeah, for sure. I think the first part of the season was heavy, and I think the turning point kind of was that road trip. Where we were able to go, just over 500 and, get a little bit of momentum. It's not like, we just turned it around overnight. It took a lot of work for the guys and we were kind of, sputtering along a little bit, up and down, a few games under 500. And then we had a 5 or 6 game winning streak there. And that's all it takes in a year like this to really turn things around. So, I'm excited to get back and jump back in, and the big thing is you there's always that thing in the back of your mind. You want to come back and play your game and be a factor, but you also don't want to screw things up for the guys. So guys are playing so well, and I'm just excited to come back and join in and feel part of it again. I missed half the season, so it's been my longest or second longest injury I've ever had. So but I've been working on a lot of things and getting better, at the stuff I do, I guess, in the time I've been off. So hopefully I can put it to good use when I get back and help the team move forward.
Robby mentioned the trading deadline there, Matt. Certainly wasn't lost on me that a day after actually not only no moves made in terms of trading players away, a player is brought in for a 7th-round pick. And then David Poyle said what he said about this team, and then the performance last night. What does it do for a room in a season like this, when it comes down to actually so much talk of trades and they don't happen, and there's sort of that show of confidence in the team?
Yeah, I think the same thing kind of happened last year, and we started to play really well after the deadline last year too. So I think the big thing is we have a group that wants to be together, that wants to be here. I've been a part of teams that when there's a bunch of rumors around the deadline and some guys are like, maybe it's good for me to go. Grass might be greener on the other side here. So, and the guy, you can kind of tell that vibe. Here it was not that way at all. Guys did not want to go anywhere. Guys wanted to be part of this. We believe that we have a team that can win the Stanley Cup right here, right now. And have we underachieved the last couple of years? Yeah, we have. But at the same time, you can turn that around, and we seem to be on the right path. And you want to get hot at the right time. We have guys like Victor Arvidsson, who's, in my mind, had a good year and has not been rewarded the way he should, but now he's starting to. So, he's got 5 goals in his last 3 games or whatever. So, really, really good to see guys like that start to get rewarded, and then the vibe picks up, and the energy picks up, and just that you start to really believe. And I think we're seeing a lot of guys start to get hot at the right time, and it's great. It's great because we were just so snake bitten on the start of the year. I've never seen a team struggle so hard to score goals. So it's great to see. It's great to see us really getting rewarded now.
Predators forward Matt Duchene on with us, brought to you by Gary Ashton Remax Advantage and by Two Rivers Ford. And Matt, a couple of young guys that have jumped out to me in this recent play here has been, of course, Yakov Trenin and Tanner Jeannot, not only with the offense they're providing, but the physicality as well. And we know the game's changed. I mean, it's not the same game that it was in the late 90s and the early 2000s. But still, how important can guys like those guys providing that physical presence be for a team, especially as you get closer to the playoffs coming here?
Yeah, I think the big thing is they're just embracing their role. They know that they have to play that way to be effective, and they're doing that. So, and then you got a guy like Sissons in the middle, who's a veteran guy, a leader of this team, and a guy that does the same thing, accepts what he does and does it very well, and he kind of drives that line with those boys. So whether it was Olivier there before, who was playing really well, or Jeannot coming in, and then Yak, his game's really gone upward lately. So everyone's got to kind of accept where they're at, and not accept where they're at, but you never want to let your role limit you, but at the same time, you want to buy into what can I do to help the team, and if that's what we need from guys, and that's what they're doing. So it's been great, and it's great to see Jeannot get his first goal last night. He's played really hard the last couple games, and bangs went in, right place, right time, and he deserved it for sure.
So Matt, big win over Tampa Bay again. Like you said, kind of turned around a month ago or so. You guys are down there on a road trip. A win there, playing a lot better against Tampa Bay, including even Saturday, losing 3-0, but Vasilevsky was great. So it seems like there's a little bit of affirmation, I guess, against that team. I'm wondering now with Carolina next, how would you assess how you guys played against them and matched up against them in the first 4 meetings?
Yeah, Carolina is a funny team. When you play them, it doesn't even feel like you're playing the same sport sometimes as when you're playing a lot of other teams. They just play a very different style. There's not a lot of time and space. They're fast. They're a very strange team, and you kind of they come at you like crazy. And if you make a couple good plays, you get grade A scoring chances, but they make you make good plays. So I think, the big thing for us, I think the confidence that we have right now with the plays we're making and the things we're doing, I think it's a team that we haven't matched up great against this year, but I think we're ready to, kind of slay that dragon, so to speak. So, we could see them in the first round. I mean, we know we're going to probably be in that 4th spot, and it's a jump ball for the top spot in our division right now. And all 3 of those teams we haven't done great against, but we started to improve that. And it's a short season this year, so it's one of those things where the learning curve is really steep. And I think right now is a better time than any to really take a step in that direction. And going into Carolina, it's never an easy game in there. They come out, it's a hornet's nest. I always call it a hornet's nest in there, and it's one of those good tests for us right now, and even to go in there and take one game out of the 2 right now against a team like that would be great. So that's we obviously want to win both, but at the same time, you want to go in for sure, at least leave 1-1. So we'll see what happens. I have confidence that the boys are going to play their best 2 games against them, though.
Matt, last thing for you here. I mean, obviously still a lot of work to do before the playoffs come, and you've got to get to that spot. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you do. Can playing this way and playing, basically playoff hockey right now, can that springboard a team coming into the playoffs? We hear that all the time from management and from coaches around the league, but from a player's perspective, is there something to that coming into the playoffs hot that you think gives you an edge heading into a series?
Yeah, I think I don't know if the playoff style stuff really is a advantage or not. I think some teams it is, some teams it's not. I think coming in hot is an advantage. Whether you're a team that's at the top of the standings or right just squeaking in. A few years ago when I was in Columbus and I got traded at the deadline and headed to Columbus, and we kind of loaded up for a playoff run, and we had to go 8-2 in the last 10 games to make it on the second last game. And just that level we were playing at, then we swept Tampa, and Tampa had the best regular season record in a long time. I remember before game one, they had the Stanley Cup at their rink already, okay, this is probably where it's going to be handed out. And us being hot going into that series, I think really it just builds confidence, and you can beat anybody. So I think, for us, we just want to keep this going. I think what I like about right now the vibe of our team is they're excited, but it's like, okay, on to the next one. Let's just get ready. And the focus is really, really high, and that speaks to, like I've talked about before, the character that we had in the room.
Predators forward Matt Duchene has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by Gary Ashton Remax Advantage and by Two Rivers Ford. Matt joins us every Wednesday here at 8:45. Matt, great stuff, man. Wish you continued success in your recovery. Hope to see you back on the ice as soon as possible. And thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Matt Duchene every week here on Robby and Rexrode at 8:45. When we come back, we'll react a little bit to what Matt Duchene had to say there and talk a little bit more about this hockey team after the game last night, the shellacking of the reigning Stanley Cup champions. What did the Predators prove to us last night against Tampa Bay? That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode live from the Wholesaling Studios, powered by RumbleOn.com. You're on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in. Final hour of Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Streaming live on YouTube, on Periscope, and on Twitch as well. Thanks to Predators centerman Matt Duchene for joining us in the last segment. Joe, I thought some interesting comments. Number one, it sounds like Duchene getting closer to coming back, said that he has gotten over the hump and that maybe, hopefully, sometime next week, he'll be back in the fold there. So the last few weeks, like, you've been able to sense the frustration from Duchene in terms of the recovery and the way things were going. And you mentioned, he brought up there the swelling that he's been dealing with his injury. It seems like he's moved past that at this point, and that maybe next week he could be back in the fold. So some good news there for the Predators on the injury front potentially.
Yeah, so they got a Monday, Wednesday, Friday against Chicago next week. Well, that's a big week.
Yeah, it is.
Monday at home, Wednesday, Friday on the road. We may be talking about, when we have Matt Duchene on next Wednesday, maybe we will be talking about his return that night.
Absolutely. So it could be the case, and we'll keep you monitored on that. But the more you could start to get some of these guys healthy and have some options in your lineup and maybe add some skill as well, that's good news for the Predators as they continue this run here where they've won 13 out of their last 16 games. Speaking of the Predators, 102.5 The Game and T-Mobile have teamed up to give away a hockey home gating party. It's time to text the word PREDS to 615-737-1025. That's PREDS to 615-737-1025 now to enter for a chance to win a Dos Equis prize pack, which includes a case of beer, dessert from Nothing But Cakes, a T-Mobile prize pack, and food provided by 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. You must be 21 or older to enter, so make sure you get those texts in now at 615-737-1025. So, Joe, a demolition of the reigning Stanley Cup champions last night, 7-2 for the Predators. They jump out to a 3-0 lead. You thought maybe Tampa Bay was going to make a game of it in the second period. They score like 41 seconds in to make it 3-1. And then Grimaldi scores later in the second period to make it 4-1. And the Predators were pretty firmly in control after that. Did the Predators prove anything to you last night with this win? Albeit no Andrei Vasilevsky, no Steven Stamkos in the lineup, but the Predators, I mean, you're missing 9 guys of your own. Did they prove anything to you with this win against the reigning Stanley Cup champions, especially in the fashion that it happened last night?
Yeah, I know there's some pushback, and I get it, on the fact that Vasilevsky was not in goal, but again, I think John Cooper, I know sometimes coaches after losses can be they can have a little bit of hyperbole going, but I think he was right. Some of those chances are as grade A as they get, and I don't care who's in net. You're gonna be hard pressed to ask that guy to stop all those chances. So, I mean, they just proved to me, one, that they can take an L to a team, play well, and then build on it. Because, Saturday night I thought was a very frustrating night for the Preds. Amid all this winning and all this momentum, Saturday was a really good performance, I thought, but also a majorly frustrating night. And They just came right out and like you said, they thrashed them. And I thought that fourth goal was really big. They get the power play goal. It's 3-1. They're pushing. They're making a bid. And we know how dangerous that team can be. And the Preds turned them back. And it was just another impressive night. They've had a lot of them lately.
Ryan Porth, is this team proving something to you? And not only just the 13-3 run that they've been on, but the way they've played against Tampa Bay in the last 3 games. Does that make you feel any differently about if it's Tampa Bay in the first round? We'll see. You've got Carolina coming up twice this week. Maybe it's them in the first round. Do you feel any differently about the Predators and their chances heading into the playoffs than you did this time a week and a half ago?
Yes, because they continue to prove that what they're doing wasn't just a 1 or 2 week thing. And I feel like the way they're playing, the style of play is here to stay. Like, that isn't going to change. Now, the level of success, you're not going to win 13 out of every 16 games. You're just not in this league. But if they continue to play this exact way, they would give any team fits in the first round. Because we see it almost every single postseason where a team that is scrappy, that plays to a system, that has a good goaltender, can give any good team fits come playoff time. Whether that's Carolina, whether that's Tampa, whether that's Florida. So I would feel more confident going into a postseason with this team and the way they're playing than I ever did going into the bubble or what I thought this team could do 14 months ago pre-pandemic going into a postseason, just because they're mentally tough, they don't get pushed around, and they play to a system now, and they've bought into the system that can be tough to play against, finally.
Yeah, and it's taken a while, but it feels like we've gotten here with this team. And, Duchesne talked about it in the last segment. Like, if you think that this just turned around overnight, I mean, this has been a process to try to build to this point. I would agree with that, although, I mean, it is pretty interesting. Like, you just look at that road trip, I do think that is the turning point. Like, that 8-game road trip you go on, and I don't know if it was just, a speech somebody had or a film session with John Hines where he's highlighting the way they've got to play, but it does feel like ever since then, even though injuries have continued to pile up, that's just been the identity with this team. And how much did we talk about in the offseason, with some of the moves that they made, bringing in a Nick Cousins or a Brad Richardson, or the way they were trying to shape this team, maybe sacrificing skill a little bit to bring in more of that grit, more of that sandpaper, more of the way that maybe you need to play at times in the playoffs. Now, I thought maybe at the time they went a little too far the other way and maybe didn't have enough skill, and I'm interested to see what this lineup looks like when some of these skilled players come back. But I do feel like this team now is embodying the personality that they were originally going for. Is that going to be enough to really give a series to a team like Tampa Bay or Carolina? That's going to be, I think, interesting to find out. I feel better about it right now than I did even this time a week ago.
Tough to play against and youth movement. Those are probably the two. As much as we're talking vibing now, we still haven't surpassed those two phrases preseason for this team. And both are finally happened. Now, one of them has happened out of necessity more than, hey, let's try this guy or that guy, right? But then you have a Tolvanen coming into his own and some things that sort of work out for you. I mean, of all the things said this week, I go back to the word confusing. Like, again, this is where, I appreciate David Poyle being willing to say stuff like that as a GM, because, I mean, really, at some point you're just kind of at the mercy of how individuals develop and play, and then how they come together. It's kind of the magic of sports chemistry and intangibles that you just can't. That's why they're called intangibles. But he called it a confusing year, and it is. I mean, it's two totally different seasons. It reminds me some of the Titans in 2019 offensively, when you're talking about as bad as it gets for 6 games and then almost as good as it gets once you get Tannehill in there. But that's different. That's the quarterback is the biggest difference. But it's kind of like that contrast. It's really amazing. So can they sustain it? I'm still going to go, just like we talk about Tannehill, I'm going to point to the guy in net. And if he's going to keep playing like this, and he doesn't have to stand on his head every night.
He didn't last night. But still, he's got a confidence about him. The way they're playing in front of him, there's just like a
vibe,
a certainty. There is just like a vibe.
Yes.
There is.
Did you notice Duchesne said vibe twice?
He did.
He said 4 times, yeah.
Was that a Freudian slip or was that intentional?
I don't know.
Yes.
Robert on YouTube
Do you use the word vibe a lot? Before
Not
this?
really.
Yeah.
I mean,
it just came out.
To be honest with you, I don't even know why I asked it the way I did in the question. But now I'm going to use it all the time.
Or
we're vibing.
Or you may never use the word again
or I may never
at
do
some
it again.
point.
We'll see. See how that goes here. Robert on YouTube says, this team is not getting the coverage on CBS or ESPN, and their reckless abandon and togetherness reminds me of 2017. They've got a toughness on the boards. They hit, etc. So Robert's saying a little bit of an underdog approach for the Nashville Predators here. Exactly where he likes it. Exactly what he wants to see.
2017 mentioned again.
I'd
hold off on that. Well, again, let's go to what I think is the most important factor. What happened in 2017, in particular against Chicago? He had a goaltender who has won a Vezina, had been a contender for the Vezina, is not too far from being a Hall of Famer. I mean, I don't think
I'd agree.
So you're talking about the greatest player in franchise history in goal, playing at his best, incredibly dominant fashion, especially the first 2 series, but especially the first series. So that's where you start on the 2017 run. It's not everything, but it's where you start. So what's this guy going to do?
Here we are. He's playing well right now. Can he keep this up?
That's
gonna be the question.
If they get in, does he step up to that, to that situation? I mean, what's his ceiling? Is his ceiling higher than we thought?
The ceiling is the roof.
You're vibing.
We're vibing on the roof.
We're pedaling.
That's right. Join 102.5 The Game this Friday from 11 to noon at the T-Mobile in Brentwood at 1701 Mallory Lane as we celebrate the kickoff of the Nashville SC season. There will be a free lunch from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and you can register to win tickets to an upcoming Nashville SC home game. Also, the Nashville SC and T-Mobile merch trucks will be on site as well. Brought to you by T-Mobile, the official wireless partner of the Nashville SC. We'll continue the discussion on the Nashville Predators when we come back, including some interesting comments made this week by David Poile on the future of 3 key players with the Predators. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. .102.5 The Game is kicking off every weekend with free beer.
Free beer!
There's a little tone to that one. That was good. Who doesn't love free beer? Make sure you're tuning in all day on Friday for your chance to win a $25 gift card from Bavarian Beer House located at Opry Mills Mall. Looking forward to that coming up on Friday. Nicely done, Ryan Porth.
Good job sounding a few beers in there.
That's pretty
No, nothing picks me up like a beer can.
Yeah, buddy. Looking forward to that. Joe Rexrode, you've gotten your fair share of country music today here on the show.
Yeah. So Porth likes to play that, likes to play some Creed. Now I've given him, I totally blew it, and I gave him Don't Worry, Be Happy, and
Yes.
what was the other? Oh, yeah.
Kokomo.
Yeah. God, Kokomo's such a bad song. Such a bad song.
I feel like that's an unpopular take. I think most people enjoy Kokomo. I do.
Okay, I'm going to do a poll then.
Okay, well, go ahead. This could be your second ever poll question. At Joe Rexrode on Twitter.
Is that the song that lists like all these different places?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Aruba, Jamaica, I wanna take ya. It's so bad.
I'm just glad Porth knows it. Can we get that again? Anytime we can get Rexrode singing here on the program, I'm all for it.
I will
Little
not.
Kokomo.
I will not do it again.
Okay, just check it.
Okay, here comes my poll. I'm gonna.
All righty.
Poll question.
Okay, vibing. Oh goodness. The Nashville Predators, David Poile, has made some interesting comments this week, both here on the program here on the station and also in his press conference as well, regarding the futures of three very important players for the Nashville Predators, Mikael Granlund, Matthias Ekholm, and Philip Forsberg as well. We talked a lot yesterday, Joe, about Mikael Granlund and Ekholm. Poile very committed to Ekholm in his press conference the other day. Granlund as well, expressing a desire maybe to keep them here beyond this year, and for Ekholm's case, an extension in his contract. David Poile joined Darren Donick and Chase yesterday for his weekly visit at 11:15 on Tuesdays, and talked about Philip Forsberg and his future as well. Here's what Predators GM David Poile had to say.
Forsberg is specifically he's in exactly the same spot as Eki is, with a year to go on his contract. He's 4 or 5 years younger than Eki. I would say is our best forward. Obviously, he's our best goal scorer right now. I mean, my first thoughts would be almost the same thing as Eki, is that we should sit down and see what he thinks about his future here and see if there's an opportunity to extend him. I mean, he'd be a very tough player to replace. And again, I think he's just coming into his prime. These are his best years, and I still see the day when Philip is not just going to score 30 goals; he's going to score 40 goals. So, I would certainly like to have Phil be part of this future with the Predators.
So that was David Poile yesterday on with Darren Donick and Chase, expressing a desire, and I don't think a very surprising desire, to keep Philip Forsberg a part of the Predators as they move forward here. So, Joe Rexrode, my question to you, when you factor in Poile's, pretty strong stance on Ekholm the other day, about him wanting to be here in the future, Forsberg as well, and expressing at least some interest in seeing whether or not you can work out a contract with Mikael Granlund as well. If you're David Poile, can you afford to keep all three of those guys here in the fold as you look at the salary cap, as you look at the other contracts already on the books, and with the younger guys coming up as well? Do you think the Predators can pull it off? Do you think the Predators should pull it off to have all three of those guys in the mix?
It's a question similar to, can we afford to really be on video at all times while doing this show? I would say it's doubtful.
Yes.
For anybody who actually is watching, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, you do.
It's going to be, look, the puzzle is if you can sign Granlund, and I think you have a good chance of keeping Ekholm and Forsberg long term. Now, that's going to cost you more for both. If you can sign Granlund, which seems like something you'd want to do at this point, then something has to give down the road. Is that what you want to do? Is it important to have those three guys? Well, no. It's definitely important, two of those three. But is it important to have Granlund, pay him long term? You want to extend those guys. And if so, then what's your corresponding? What are you getting rid of? And how can you get rid of what you're getting rid of.
Yeah,
because that won't be easy either.
No, it won't be easy. And look, there are two obvious names that come to mind. It's Johansson and Duchesne. And what does their future look like with the Predators? And I think there's a notion out there that like one of those two guys is automatically going to be on Seattle next year with the expansion draft coming in. And I just don't believe that. Like, I'm not saying they're absolutely not going to be on, but I think if you're just assuming that Johansson and Duchesne, one of those two, is going to be with the Kraken next year, it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that, at least in my opinion. Maybe it's not. Like, maybe you're Seattle, you're coming in, you've got to find a way to get to the cap floor, and taking on an $8 million contract per season, not really that big of a deal. I would be surprised if that's the case. And if you do take Duchesne or Johansson, if you're Seattle, assuming the Predators leave one of those exposed, maybe both of those exposed, if you're the Predators, do you have to sweeten the pot a little bit to try to get them to do it? Like, I think I would say it's going to be difficult to get one of those two contracts taken by Seattle. So if you've got both of them still in the fold next year, like, what do you do? Like, I think next year you could pull it off and you could bring Granlund in and he could still fit under the cap, and you could approach this with largely the same approach you've got right now, and the extensions that hopefully you will have signed Ekholm to at that point and Forsberg to at that point, they're not kicking in until the following year. But once those extensions kick in, like Ekholm and Forsberg to me are probably both getting a raise. So that you have to factor that in with a salary cap. What do you do at that point? Is it a trade for maybe a guy like Ryan Ellis? Do you consider moving on for him? Do you find at some point somebody to take on a Duchesne contract or a Johansson contract? There's a lot of money that the Predators have on the books. And not only that, there's a lot of young guys that are not that far away from being ready to be everyday contributors. We're seeing some of that already with this group, but I don't think Tomasino's that far away. You know, Tolvanen's going to need a new contract at some point too. Like, there's a whole lot you've got to consider here if you're David Poile and the Predators. He always talks about that 3 to 5 year plan. You got to be thinking in terms of that right now as well.
And you went through a lot of work in different time periods of building this team to get those two guys here. So what if Johansson's playing pretty well right now. What if Duchesne comes back next week, tears it up the rest of the season, the postseason? I mean, that's what you want, but that would make for an interesting dilemma. I think we've almost gotten to the point where we're just assuming that one of those $8 million a year contracts has to go. But what if all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, that's right. This is what we signed up for.
Yeah.
And this is what you want. That's my, top two centers down the middle. We're strong. Then what's the corresponding move? Like, I don't know. An Ellis, which I feel like is almost a non-starter with David Poile.
Yeah. It's tough. And look,
but you want to have that problem because it means success this year.
Well, and the other part of that is, like, what does Granlund think about all this? Like, I look at Ekholm and Forsberg. I say it's pretty likely those two guys get extended. Like, there's no reason for me to believe that Ekholm doesn't want to be here. There's no reason that I've been led to believe that Forsberg doesn't want to be here. So I think it's pretty likely those two are going to end up extended, and they're going to be a part of your group as you move forward here. I don't really know how Granlund feels. Like, you basically moved on from him last year, and then free agency was what it was. It didn't work out well for really anybody in free agency as far as players are concerned, based on COVID and the market and the salary cap, all these different things. It's not going to be that different this year in terms of the cap. Like, how does Granlund feel about this? Does he want to sign a multi-year deal somewhere? Does he want to go on another one-year contract and try his hand at free agency again next season? Like, I think there's a couple different ways this could go with Granlund, and I think getting to the bottom of exactly how he feels about it is interesting. I would have to assume that his role, the way that he's played, and the way that John Hines, uses him, that's got to be attractive if you're Granlund, just based on how important he's been. I don't think it's a stretch to say, and maybe you could argue Forsberg with this as well, but I don't think it's a stretch to say in the entire picture, in the entire time under John Hines, Granlund's been the best forward. Like, I think if he's not number one, he's certainly number two.
Yeah, and I would agree that stuff should be attractive. Another thing with players and making choices like this is, they want to play for winners. They want to be on a contender. So what does Granlund feel about the direction of things? It's right now, I'm sure everybody feels great about how things are going. You're in a 13-3 stretch, but does this team if you bring basically everyone back and you hope some some young players keep progressing, does it go into next year? Do you feel like that's a contender? I mean, some of these are questions that are answered each night on the ice, and especially if they get to the playoffs. But there's a lot. I'm very interested I'd love to know what he thinks and what he thinks about his future. He did produce more offensively in Minnesota than he has here overall, but like you said, under Hines, it's been way better.
Starting Monday, listen to the game every weekday for your chance to win $1,000. It's the game's 1K payday. Listen for keywords at 9, noon, and at 3. And when you hear it, go to thegamenashville.com and enter the keyword for a shot at $1,000. That's starting on Monday, so make sure you're tuned in for that. When we come back, Adam Vingan from The Athletic will join us. We'll get into the Nashville Predators with him. Also, he's got a beef with Joe Rexrode. That coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Periscope, on YouTube, and on Twitch as well. And it's that time of the week let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our good friend Adam Vingan from The Athletic. Adam, how in the world are you? I know that you got a dispute with Joe Rexrode, so without further ado, I turn the floor over to you.
I do have a dispute with Joe Rexrode because I heard his little Rex rant the other day about his hatred or misunderstanding of professional wrestling, and I take umbrage with that. It was slanderous, all of those ridiculous things that you said. How dare you?
Tell me the lie. Tell me the lie.
Tell you the lie?
Yeah, what did I say that was inaccurate?
Well, I understand your... Hold on. I understand your point about why you might not like professional wrestling. But at the same time, you also admitted to watching Big Brother, which I think is more embarrassing.
That is true.
That show hasn't been relevant in 20 years.
That is true.
It's listen, it's an actual competition. That's all I'm saying. Like, again, I love the Marvel movies, but if I don't want to see on the ESPN crawl, Thanos goes down in big fight. No, that's not, it was scripted entertainment. So it does not deserve sports writers to treat it like it's a sporting event.
That's why the WWE doesn't really refer to itself as professional wrestling anymore, but as sports entertainment.
Yeah.
So as long as you take it that way, I think it's fine. I think you understand that, yes, the outcomes are predetermined. And I'm 32 years old. I know that. I think I knew that when I first started watching professional wrestling because my parents told me, one, not to do any of the things I saw on the screen, and
yes.
two, not to say anything that I heard on the broadcast. Because when I started watching it, it was much less kid-friendly than it is today. But the athleticism that it requires is incredibly impressive. And I think that's one thing that everybody can appreciate, even if, yes, it is more or less a soap opera with men in tights.
No, hey, listen, I appreciate the athleticism. Again, just like some of these stuntmen in the Marvel movies, outstanding. And like some actors do their own stunts. Tom Cruise, I've heard, incredible. Yes. So that's all fine. I'm not saying that there's nothing impressive or fun about it. I just don't want it to be sold as sports because some people aren't as smart as you, Vingan.
Vingan took it as a personal affront, and he's upset with you, and I'm glad he took the time to get it off his chest.
They're more easily confused than you are, Adam. Can you acknowledge this?
Perhaps. I think what's interesting for me as I've gotten older is I'm less interested in the product in the ring, like in terms of the actual matches, and more about the backstage politics and stuff, like why one person is more popular than another or why one person gets a chance to be the champion versus another. I think that's more interesting to me today than it was 20 years ago.
Well, Adam, I'm glad you got some time to take that or get that off your chest, and maybe Joe Rexrode will warm up to the idea of professional wrestling as a sport as we move forward here.
And real
Next
fast,
time,
if you like that stuff, then check out Big Brother this season.
Thank you.
You might like it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Adam Vingan, the Predators are vibing right now on the ice. 13 out of their last 16 games they've won. What's been your reaction to all this, including a 7-2 drubbing last night of the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, first of all, thank you for ruining vibing.
You're welcome.
I mean, Ryan Johansson already has a T-shirt,
yes.
So it's taken a mind of its own. But yeah, last night was certainly impressive. And look, I'm going to. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I am going to mention the fact that it was Curtis McElhinney in net and not Andre Vasilevsky. Now, I don't know how much more different the score would have been if it was Vasilevsky in net. And if the Predators play the Lightning in the playoffs, it will definitely be Vasilevsky in net. But they did so many good things last night. I've been especially impressed with Victor Arvidsson lately. It must be, the power of having a baby. And if that's the case, I look forward to it in a few months when my wife and I have our first child, if I get superhuman powers like Victor Arvidsson seems to have received since
maybe so.
his wife gave birth to their daughter. But I think of the zone entry that he made leading into Rocco Grimaldi's goal. He had 2 goals, of course, last night. We think of the stretch pass that Roman Josi made to Victor Arvidsson to score on the breakaway. We haven't seen that from Arvidsson in a couple of years, I feel like. And it seems to me that he is playing now at a level that we grew accustomed to a couple of years ago when he was scoring 20 to 30 goals, breaking the Predators' single-season goal-scoring record. And you just look at who scored the goals last night. You had a couple from Arvidsson, you had one from Josi, you had one from Granlund. Tanner Jeannot scored his first NHL goal. Colton Sissons. It's up and down the lineup, and that's great. That's one thing that I think we weren't seeing from them earlier in the season. I think Matthew Shane alluded to it earlier with the two of you that perhaps they were a bit snake-bitten early in the season, and statistically that bears out. When they were 11, 16, and 1 to start the season, they had the worst 5-on-5 shooting percentage in the NHL, and now I feel like we're seeing positive regression, and it's certainly exciting. Am I still skeptical about this team's immediate future? Yes, but last night certainly was an exclamation point to David Poile expressing confidence in this group to go on as is.
Okay, so how much of your skepticism might be further chipped away if they go play 2 really good games and win at least one of them against Carolina? And I mean, has your imagination stretched a little bit on what this team could possibly do this year?
I'm still not quite there yet. And to answer your question, I think if they can go to Carolina and play 2 good games, regardless of whether or not they win, if they can play Carolina close, I mean, think about the earlier games this season where the Predators played the Lightning. It did not appear that the Predators belonged on the same ice surface as the Lightning. And even in the game they lost 3-0 over the weekend to Tampa, I thought they played them tight. So if the Predators can play like that against the Hurricanes on the road Thursday and Saturday, then I think I'll gain a bit more confidence in this group. For me, I think it's going to have to wait until they make the playoffs for me to fully embrace what I'm watching. And if this team can make the playoffs and they have 3 huge games next week, all against the Chicago Blackhawks, which is basically the season, in my opinion. If they make it to the playoffs or they sweep Chicago and finish 8-0 against Chicago, and they're clearly the 4th seed entering the final week or 2 of the season, I still think I'll feel a bit better. But for me, I think after what happened at the trade deadline, I think this team has to win a round in order for me to fully believe in what I'm watching. And, that's just me maintaining some wiggle room in case I'm wrong, because, of course, we all have to make sure that we're not completely wrong.
That's right. Adam Vinkin from The Athletic on the line with us, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam, thinking back a couple of days ago to the deadline and David Poile's comments at his press conference, what did you think about how strong he was in terms of coming out in support of Mattias Ekholm, saying, I'm not going to lose Mattias Ekholm in the expansion draft, and the next conversation I have with Ekholm essentially is going to be about whether or not he wants to stay here. What did you think about those comments and how strong they were from David Poile regarding the future of Ekholm?
I was a bit surprised because David was so unambiguous about, one, claiming that he never seriously entertained the idea of trading Mattias Ekholm, despite the fact that for months Mattias Ekholm was the most talked about player in the rumor mill. And 2, as you just said, Robbie, that he is not going to lose Mattias Ekholm in expansion. He basically vowed not to lose Mattias Ekholm in expansion. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. I was surprised by how vigorously he defended Ekholm, just because David, doesn't typically do that. But I think that it makes that expansion list a bit more clear. If we know that we can pencil in Mattias Ekholm, we can write Roman Josi and Sharpie because he has a no movement clause. We can put UC Saros in there, probably Philip Forsberg and Victor Arvidsson. Then it gets a bit more complicated. But at least it appears to be coming into view. But you think about the idea of Matthias Ekholm re-signing. Robby, you asked David about Mikael Granlund, and David sounds very interested in re-signing him. There's also Philip Forsberg. There's not enough money to go around for all of these players with a flat cap. So there's going to have to be some sort of movement. And I think most Predators fans would like it to be one of the two $8 million centers. There's definitely a Team Ryan and Team Matt thing going on like in Twilight, though I think most people are on Team Ryan right now. It's going to be some interesting cap gymnastics that David is going to have to do in order to get all of these players signed if that's what he really wants to do.
You watch Twilight and you're making fun of Big Brother?
I don't watch
Twilight,
but I'm a fan of pop culture, and I know what Twilight is.
Adam's in the know.
All right, so would you rather wear a We're Vibin' Nashville T-shirt or go on a Pedal Tavern ride?
Would I rather wear a Vibin' T-shirt or go on a Pedal Tavern ride?
Or never watch wrestling again? I'll give you a third option. I may have to do another poll here.
I would say of those three, well, first of all, the third option is never happening.
We know that.
I would rather go on a Pedal Tavern ride than ride a We're Vibin'.
It took Vingan 2 days to get over the Vibin'.
Bad vibes.
Yeah.
From Vingan. Bad vibes.
2 days.
What's wrong with vibing, man? I like vibing as a verb. Vibing's a cool verb. It's normally a noun, but I like it as a verb.
You have to do these things subtly. Like, it needs to be an organic ground.
It was. It was a question at a press conference.
In 2 days, it went from a clip in a press conference to a T-shirt. Like, that's too fast.
I have no control over this. It just happened.
You better be getting a cut of the profits, by the way.
We're working on it.
Oh, we've been talking about that.
We're working on it.
Lawyers have been texted.
That's right. Working on it.
We're vibing, Robby.
That's right. Vibing all the way through the show here. Adam Vingan from The Athletic has been our guest here on Robby and Rexrode. Adam, great stuff as always, brother. Appreciate you taking time to join us.
All right, Rexrode. I'm going to have to lay the smackdown again if you talk bad about wrestling.
Hey, you know what? If I can find my signed Leapin' Lanny Poffo Frisbee from 1987, I will give it to you as a show of solidarity.
And here we go. Very nicely done.
Okay, that sounds good.
That's right. Adam Vingan joins us every week here on the show at 9:30 on Wednesdays. When we come back, we'll react to a little bit of what Vingan had to say. Also give you an update on Rexrode's poll question as well. All that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Oh, what a song here to close out the show today on Robby and Rexrode, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ryan Porth here with you on this Wednesday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Joe, how you feeling now?
Well, and someone said this on Twitter, like, thanks, you put it in my head, and it's the same for me. Like, even before that, it was in my head.
Sure.
So I've totally failed.
Yes, you have.
You have done this to yourself.
Yes.
And then now there's some people like Nate, our friend Nate, is like, why didn't you have a I like it or love it option, you know?
Yeah.
Because in my poll questions, I'm going to, yes, that's right. I'm going to arrange it how I like. And to me, no human could possibly like the song Kokomo.
Let's update the poll question at Joe Rexrode on Twitter. This is your second ever poll question. I'm very proud of you. How much do you hate the Beach Boys song Kokomo? Joe's options are a little, a lot, even more than Creed. 228 votes are in. 48% say a little, 29% say a lot, 23% say even more than Creed.
So
I think there's some secret Creed fans out there.
That's the thing. I mean, you could take those answers as people who
like Creed,
just like Creed, or probably I would say people who share my hatred for both things. Chip Walters, outstanding play-by-play voice of the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders.
Yep.
Has told me that it's one of his favorite Beach Boys songs.
Good.
Now, I can't, like...
I'm with Chip.
I love you, Chip. But if you like the Beach Boys, and I love the Beach Boys, I think Pet Sounds is one of the great albums of all time. I think Brian Wilson is one of the great songwriters of all time. If you like the Beach Boys, you should hate the hell out of Kokomo. Like, I don't get it. I'm trying to think of a comparison to that. That'd be like if, like... Led Zeppelin put out some song in the 90s. Like, it would, like, no. I
think you're being a little extreme. I think it's a good song. Puts me in a good mood.
Absolutely atrocious.
I think it's a great song. Puts me in a great mood. And if you had an option on your poll question for liking it, I'd vote on it. I like that song. So just to shove it to you, there you go.
Hey, your mom liked my tweet to you. I like a lot of your My Birth songs, too, that I said to you. Your mom liked that
There you go.
tweet. So there
Thank
you go.
Deborah.
In your face.
We appreciate it. Ryan Porth,
Yes.
you have a giveaway for the people.
I've got a trivia question.
Oh, boy.
For a pair of tickets to all 3 games of the Music City Diamond Classic, which is Lane versus Tuskegee this weekend at First Horizon Park.
Okay.
So there's
Going out to the ballpark.
one game Saturday at 3 o'clock and then a doubleheader on Sunday beginning at noon. So this trivia question at our text line, 615-737-1025. The first 2 people that answer this question correctly will win a pair of tickets to all 3 games.
Okay.
What Major League Baseball team was the first affiliate of the Nashville Sounds?
Oh, that's a good question. What baseball team, what Major League Baseball team was the first affiliate of the Nashville Sounds? If you know that answer, send it in to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Going to have 2 winners. You have a guess. Okay, well, hold off on the guess a little bit. We'll see if we can get some correct answers. Okay, that's fine. We can do that for sure. There's a lot of response to your hatred for the Beach Boys. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, and most of it is reasonable. Someone on there said, like, I hate every Nirvana song more, which is just like I can't even I don't even know how to respond to that. Hey, real quick, I've got to get into this Barrett Sports Media story about Jared, which is very, very cool that they did a story on Jared and company adding Caroline Fenton.
Yep.
So that's cool. But I would like to read this quote from Jared Stillman.
Okay.
After this paragraph about his talent, this is Jared. Quote, it's kind of like different genres of movies. Some guys are comedy actors, some guys are drama guys, and some guys are action guys. And then you have someone like Ryan Reynolds who can do all of them.
Ryan Reynolds.
I try not to make it about me or think it's about me, but it's a really important step in my development. So Stillman has just compared himself in print to Ryan Reynolds.
That's amazing.
I love you, Jared. This is content for months. Okay.
I love the confidence. That's good.
I do too.
So now, when you
comedy, drama, action, but you can put it all together in one package.
Let me ask you this: when you think of an actor of comedy, action, whatever situation you want to throw out there, is Ryan Reynolds the name that comes to your mind?
I probably
he's funny. I love him in Deadpool.
Deadpool is great.
It's great.
I guess if you think about Deadpool, maybe that's what Jared was thinking about.
Yeah. Now,
is
will
Jared
say,
the Deadpool of sports radio?
I have watched, Reynolds in some action movies, and he's good at it. Like, I'm not saying he's not good, but I've seen a movie called Waiting from Ryan Reynolds early in his career, and I can't take him seriously in anything after seeing that movie.
Oh, I did not see this, but he was in the Green. He was in a very failed action movie. What was it?
I'd have to go look at
the Green movie.
The Green Lantern?
Yes,
Yeah.
right? He was in the
Oh,
Green
yeah, it
Lantern.
wasn't great.
They made fun of it. So is Jared more Deadpool Ryan Reynolds or Green
Lantern?
Green Lantern Ryan Reynolds?
I don't know.
Isn't he in the Change-Up?
Yeah.
That was perhaps the worst movie of all time.
It's pretty bad.
Missed that one.
I think that's
You're not missing much.
That is the only movie where I've walked out of the theater midway through.
Wow.
Was like, I can't do this anymore.
Done.
So you're
I'm
so
done
20% of the movies you've seen, you've walked out halfway through.
Jeez. It's a pretty high percentage, Port. You're going to have to work on that. Ben on the
Jared
text line.
Stillman, Ryan Reynolds.
Ben
Thank
on
you.
the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, who, as we know, has been charting the takes by both you and Jared.
Oh,
says Jared just lost all his points versus Joe. The competition is over. So the charting now coming to an end.
Thank you, Ben. Actually, I feel good for you, Ben, because I was worried about you.
Ryan Porth, do we have a winner in the trivia question that you've thrown out there?
Yes, we have two winners.
Okay.
Waiting on both of their infos to come through, so I don't know exactly who they are that won the tickets to the Music City Diamond Classic coming up this weekend. But the correct answer is my Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, I wondered why this might be a poll question.
And the trivia question being,
trivia
what
question.
Major League Baseball team was the first affiliate of the Nashville Sounds?
There you go.
That was not my guess.
What was your guess?
My guess was the Yankees.
We've had a couple of guesses for the Yankees.
Because am I wrong that Don Mattingly spent time here? Yeah.
The Yankees were the affiliate from 80 to 84.
There you go.
But the Reds were 78 and 79.
There you go.
Okay, so it wasn't a terrible guess.
No, it was a good guess.
You were close.
A lot of guesses for the Oakland A's, a lot of guesses for the Milwaukee Brewers as well. All of which have been affiliates of the Nashville Sounds at one point, and the Brewers still are. So there you go. That is today's trivia question, brought to you by Ryan Porth.
Some of them with 5-tool players.
That's right.
Kind of like Jared Stillman.
That's right.
It was Jared Stillman's baseball equivalent.
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe it's A-Rod. Ask Anthony Bennett. That'll do it for us today here on Robby and Rexrode. Darren, Donick, and Chase is coming up next. This is ESPN 102.5, The Game.